Yeah, great. All right. Well, yeah, thank you very much, Michael, for that introduction and encouraging everyone to introduce themselves as well. It's a great way to get to know everyone in the room here and all the advisors. So to get right into it, because I know we don't have a ton of time for each individual presentation, so we'll try to be efficient here. To get right into it, I believe our first presentation will be by Franc Kamugyisha, and he's CEO and founder of Ecoplastile Limited. Great to see that you're getting your screen set up there. Perfect. So this is a waste management company based in Uganda, as Michael briefly mentioned, and he's seeking, well, I mean, we might even just let him talk a little bit more about what he's looking for and what his company is all about. So yeah, Franc, if you're ready, feel free to jump in there. And I'll keep an eye on the clock, and I'll put my fingers up. 2 minutes left, 1 minute left, and then hopefully by then you'll be finished your pitch.
Thank you. Can I begin?
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I'm called Franc Kamugyisha, and I'm joining in from Kampala, Uganda. Now, I want to give you a little bit about my background. I grew up in the slum community in Kampala, and this is where I witnessed their consequences of poor waste disposal, with a lot of plastics littering everywhere on streets and the housing crisis in my own city. Disappointed by my own story, I embarked on using my skills and passion to solve the waste management crisis and the housing crisis affecting my city by incorporating Ecoplastile. It's solving three problems in our country. First is plastic waste pollution. Globally, over 10 million metric tons of plastic end up in the oceans. But for our city in Kampala, over 51% of the plastics that are generated remain uncollected. And where do they end? They end up in River Nile and finally finding themselves in the oceans. And the second problem is the housing crisis and extreme poverty. In Uganda today, there is over 2.5 million housing deficit and growing at 200,000 housing units per annum. This is corroborated due to the effect of poverty that people live below the poverty line. And the third problem is the problem of deforestation. Globally, there is 13 million hectares of forest have been cut down in the last 50 years due to human activities, and construction activities is part of them. But we have a solution at Ecoplastile. We've invented a technology called Waxy2 that uses profiled wax from bees that we use to manufacture plastic plumbers and roofing tiles sustainably that are used in the construction sector. We get plastics, sorry. This is our competitive advantage. We understand there are numerous roofing tile manufacturers in the country that manufacture roofing tiles specifically from clay, and concrete. But we have invented a technology that is energy efficient and a revolutionary approach to the waste management in our sector. But we also have the winning business model where we work with collection centers that collect plastic in exchange for cash and for insurance cover. And that makes us a very unique business model in our sector. But also our products are 2 times lighter than the conventional products on the market with 0 breakages. They are long lasting and they are 30% cheaper compared to concrete and metal. They last longer and they're 2 times larger compared to other products on the market. How big is our market? The roofing market itself is globally is over 132 million US dollars. And the fencing market is at 34.4 billion US dollars. The building material market itself is 342 million US dollars. And the African market itself for the construction sector is a $14 trillion market with a 4.6 CGR, and 90% of this market is in the affordable housing sector. This is our business model. We work with collection centers who collect plastic and then they exchange for cash or for insurance cover. And we bring this plastic up our factory, extrude and manufacture plastic plumbers and roofing tiles, which costs us $5 per plastic plumber and $0.5 per roofing tile. And we distribute these products through hardware stores to construction companies and real estate developers, making a profit of $4 per plastic lumber and $0.5 per roofing tile. What have been the milestones today? The first quarter of 2019, we conceptualized Ecoplastile. And the second half of 2019, we had provisional patents from the UAlberta. And the first half of 2022, we began to start collaboration with a number of partners in our country. And the second half of 2022, we raised some pre-seed funding and won the Planet Award to help us commercialize this work. The first half of 2021 has been piloting industrial scale manufacturing of roofing tile and other products. And the second half of 2021 is to do commercialization of the product. What is our growth strategy? Over the next 3 years, we aim to increase production up to 500 posts and 10,000 roofing tiles per day. And in the next 3 years, we'll introduce new product lines and enter into new markets. And in the next 10 years, we do product diversification by constructing low-cost houses using low-cost construction products. Our 3-year strategic business plan is to withdraw over 5 million metric tons of plastic from the environment and create over 2,000 jobs, especially the marginalized youth and women across the plastic Flarechain, and reduce the cost of construction by over 30%. This is our amazing team. Our team is comprised of both technical, business leaders, as well as sales and marketing. We have a number of partners who are enabling us to get ready to introduce the new products on the market. And this is how you may help us. I'm calling on to you to join us so that we can make a difference in the world. Think impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, great pitch. Definitely a huge problem in the world, and it sounds like a great approach to solving it. So if anyone has any questions, please throw your questions into the chat, and then I will call on anyone who has a question and they can ask it. Or you can just type your question into the chat and I will ask it for you, whichever works best. So feel free to do that now. Maybe just a clarification that I'll ask first here is, I didn't quite catch on the timeline there. Are you revenue generating already? Do you have customers, or is that sort of late 2021 on the timeline there that you're looking towards that actual commercialization?
Yeah, thank you so much for that great question, Trevor. We currently, well, the business model has been that the roofing tiles are not yet generating revenues, but the business is generating revenues from other products, because we are doing plastic flakes, which has been earning us money since 2018 actually. But this new product, the roofing tile, is not yet generating revenues.
Okay, I see. Great. Michael has a question if you want to jump on.
Just wondering how easy it is to insure your products. I don't know how consistently they can be produced and whether or not there's any liability issues, for example, if they were to fail, or what their lifespan is.
Wow, thank you so much for that question, Michael. Well, first of all, our technology is a proven technology, because there are a number of other companies that are producing roofing tiles, especially in California, USA, and South Africa. So it is a proven technology that we are actually bringing from the other countries to our country. So and we do make sure that we produce the product that are going to last for so many years without not meeting the expectation of the customers. I don't know whether it answers your question, Michael.
Yeah, sounds like that does. Yeah, great. Arun, I believe you has a question here. Do you want to jump on, unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi, Frank. I just wanted to understand, what are some of your biggest costs, especially when it's related to expansion? Because I'm assuming logistics plays a big cost aspect. So just wanted to understand more about that.
Yeah, sure. Arun, did you talk about the cost, the biggest cost?
Yes.
Oh yeah, great, fantastic. So the biggest cost that we have currently is the cost of machinery, because we're looking at getting a fully fledged production plant, and we've identified a machine supplier in South Africa who is able to provide the technology at a cost of around between $150,000 to $300,000. So that is the biggest cost that we see as Ecoplastile moving forward. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so I think, oh, we got, yeah, another question from Daria in there. So Daria, you jump on and feel free to ask your question.
Hi, Frank. Awesome
Hi.
pitch. Wondering if this is a manufacturing and plastic repurposing process. Are you just planning to do that in Uganda and then exporting the products globally eventually? Or would you consider a business model of, replicating this procedure elsewhere? If we look at, North America, you could perhaps consider replicating this process in a plant here or elsewhere in the world, and that could potentially find more customers having the products be made locally respective to different locations. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that fantastic question. I think currently the model is that we are confident that we can produce 85% for the local market here, and then 15% for the East African market, because that is our target for the beginning. So we are looking at Uganda, and then produce from here, but export to these other countries because the transport means are easy. We can transport to Kenya, we can go to Tanzania, to Rwanda. It's easier. But maybe when you talk of maybe like going to out of Africa, that definitely may really necessitate us to set up a different factory and make sure that we do production from different areas as the market opportunity may arise, of course. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, we're out of time for questions, but thank you very much, Frank, and great presentation. I definitely hope this is something that gets solved by your company, because it's definitely a big problem, and would love to see that. So hopefully everyone can see the poll results now coming in. And there was one other question in the chat. So if you want to answer that one in the chat, go ahead and do that. And if anyone else does have another question, feel free to throw that into the chat or get in touch with Frank directly.
Everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
And that's our factory. That's our factory in the picture.
Oh, nice. Okay. Great.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So the next presentation, Frank, if you want to unshare your screen, and then we can get Laura Patterson, Fortin, will be our next presenter. So Laura is from BioLargo, and she's a research scientist there. And BioLargo develops wastewater treatment systems, and they are looking for their next funding round, I believe next or first, but we'll find out more from Laura right away. So if you're ready, Laura, feel free to jump right in. Again, I'll put 2 fingers up for 2 minutes left, 1 finger up for 1 minute left. And actually I might even go like this for time's up. And yeah, feel free to jump right into it.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep, we can see it and we can hear you.
Well,
great.
Good afternoon, and thank you for this opportunity to speak today. I'm very excited to tell you a bit about BioLargo Water, our AOS system, as well as some of the plans we have for market entry into our poultry processing market. So my name is Laura Patterson, and I'm a senior research scientist at BioLargo Water. So part of my role is leading our team to understand the disinfection capabilities of our system. So BioLargo Water is an Edmonton-based startup, and we are developers of a wastewater treatment system known as the Advanced Oxidation System, or the AOS. BioLargo Water is composed of an innovative team of scientists and engineers who have rapidly taken this from an idea to bench scale to now a market-ready product that we are looking to take first to our poultry market. And we view the poultry processing market as our most mature market with the greatest traction for us at this time. So BioLargo Water has developed the Advanced Oxidation, or AOS. It is for water and wastewater treatment. It is an energy efficient, cost-effective technology that removes a wide range of contaminants. The AOS is ready for market, and we are looking for investment support as we begin our commercial activities. So the poultry market, why are we there? Why are we interested? So this poultry wastewater is an industry dealing with increasing water scarcity, environmental concerns, as well as fines. So there is an increased pressure on producers and processors to be dealing with this wastewater. And one way that it has been evaluated or suggested is through wastewater reuse and treatment. And this is an extremely attractive option from both an environmental and a cost perspective. The market potential for this market is huge. We see the total market, including worldwide, worth $246 million. And we're focused initially on the North American market. And we're hoping to achieve within this wastewater market 20% penetration within the first 5 years. So that would be valued at 7.9 million. And we are focused on this market because we view it as our most mature market, and we have significant market traction as well as pilot validation of our technology for this market. Though to note, we are also targeting other markets, including agricultural markets, stormwater, as well as micropollutants, with micropollutants emerging as an extremely hot topic, especially in Europe at this time. So what can be done for poultry wastewater? What is a solution? And our system, the EOS, is a low-cost solution for this market, for treatment of their wastewater, for safe discharge, or even for reuse. There is growing interest in potable reuse in this market, whereby facilities can take their treated wastewater and reuse it on site for subsequent operations. So the EOS is well positioned to help in this regards. In addition to its low cost and energy efficiency, the EOS has a small footprint. It has fewer technical limitations than many of our competitors, and we do hold significant strong IP protection for our technology. So why now? The growing awareness of market needs in the water sphere has made this the right time for the EOS. We have strong market traction. We have partners within Alberta who are interested in our technology, interested in seeing at how we can help them. We have demonstrated performance at pilot scale, and we're working very closely with regulators to understand how and what is necessary to allow for potable reuse within this market. So as we enter market, we have completed our pilot validation studies. So we have demonstrated performance of our AOS system. We have shown that the EOS can disinfect and treat this wastewater to levels surpassing USDA standards in this field. So based on this and our strong market traction, we're now moving into a commercial pilot for this technology. And we are currently working to secure final funding pieces to ensure that we can begin operations as soon as possible. So we anticipate success in this pilot, and therefore we hope to see expansion across Alberta and across Canada, and finally into US markets where they're also dealing with some similar water woes and a need for processors to address this water issue. In parallel, we are also working on other wastewater markets, including, as previously described, the micropollutant market, where we envision the EOS to be an extremely cost-efficient technology for removal of organics and micropollutants. So our main competitors are ozone, UV, and chlorination, and we can see that the EOS outperforms these technologies with its low costs, its performance, as well as its energy efficiency. Furthermore, we know that the EOS is less sensitive to TSS and turbidity, two things that have major negative impacts on performance of these other three technologies. The EOS is also extremely safe. We have shown through independent studies that it is environmentally safety, so the effluent is safe for discharge, but also that it is a very safe technology for users to be involved in. So the model we envision for this poultry market is the lease to own service model. And this model will include the AOS system, its installation, as well as a monthly maintenance plan. This would be a 5-year lease term valued at $120,000 per year. And for the consumer, we see significant benefits to this model for this market. Firstly, the monthly maintenance that we would provide, the access to the BioLargo team, which would allow for troubleshooting when needed, as well as support to determine and ensure performance. We will also be able to offer analytical services to show performance of our system. And finally, the work we are doing with regulators will be key in ensuring that we are meeting the necessary benchmarks to allow for potable reuse or non-potable reuse of water treated by our system. So we project from this, these are numbers for our processing market only, that we will see over the next 5 years significant growth in both the AOS revenue and the number of systems sold. As previously described, we have a strong team here in Edmonton working on the development of our technology, but we are also blessed with having the support of our parent company and sister companies in the US, and they have been very beneficial in helping us with business development and technical expertise. One gap that we do see is in advanced materials engineering expertise, and we see this as being a key expertise critical as we move forward in our market development. BioLargo has received significant support from the government as well as our parent company, and this support has been very beneficial as we have quickly moved to the stage of market readiness. So we are now currently looking for investment to complete our development activities and to support our commercial pilot activities, and as well as furthermore manufacturing capabilities as we move into market. We anticipate that initial investments will be used to complete R&D as well as our pre-commercial pilots, and then focusing on to commercial activities in the subsequent years. So in summary, I feel the US provides an energy efficient and low cost wastewater treatment solution for an industry that's grappling with water woes. Our strong market traction in this market and several others makes the OS a potentially disruptive technology for wastewater treatment. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Laura. Excellent presentation. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please throw those into the chat, and then I will ask you to unmute yourself and ask your question. And we've already got one, great. So Daria, feel free to ask your question.
Hello, Laura, that was awesome. Another kind of sustainable technology startup, how great. It sounds like you're pretty much ready to enter the market, even if it is through pilots. So I'm wondering, has your team thought about kind of the customer acquisition strategy? Would you be pursuing, I don't know too much about this industry in particular, but would you be pursuing individual farms or corporations? What might that process look like for you guys? And my other question was, after poultry, what would be kind of your next market that you think would be, feasible and appealing in terms of financial gain?
Okay, so for your first question, so for this market, we're focusing on contacts that we have through commissions and contacts we've made through our pre-piloting activities to help us to identify potential partners in this market that would be interested in our technology for the treatment of their wastewater. We focus this market mainly on being a direct sales on our behalf. So we would be working to identify the people or the processors that could benefit. And then secondly, we currently view micropollutants as a next market. We have shown that our system is quite capable at removing pharmaceuticals from a municipal wastewater stream. And so we have seen significant market pull in that direction, because there is emerging, within Europe especially, we are seeing emerging rules in the need to tackle the presence of these compounds in wastewater. So we see that as another market where our system has the ability to energy efficiently remove these contaminants from water.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you could probably pursue partnerships with the governments, which might be super good for you guys to get traction.
Yeah, we've started exploring options in Europe with like the trades commissioner, and we've been put into contact with different potential partners in Europe that might be able to help us with at this point for that market.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Daria. And I believe Aaron had a comment. It's in the chat there, which is actually very closely related. Go take a look at that comment as well, Laura. And then Michael has a question. So Michael, if you want to jump in.
Laura, great talk and great to have you back. I'm just wondering how the global company and the Canadian subsidiary relate and synergize, and which markets they're chasing respectively.
So with respect to the water treatment technology, we work together in tandem with them. So they help us, they have been able to help us find markets within, like, partners, customers within the US, but we are mainly working on the same markets together in synergy.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I don't see any other questions there, so maybe I'll ask a question a little bit on the technology side. I appreciated your slide there talking about some of the competitive technologies. I was wondering, are there any other sort of oxidation purifier technologies or companies out there with a similar technology? I mean, you mentioned you have strong IP protection, so I'm assuming you have some more advanced system, but could you go into that in a little bit more detail?
Yes, we are aware of one company in Canada that has an advanced oxidation system, and it mainly focuses on removing organic contaminants. So our system does focus on that, but in addition, it has that added capability of strong disinfection. So for the poultry market, we focused on technologies that are more disinfection based, which is the main need for that market to be able to reuse the water. While in the micropollutant market, we are currently looking and trying to understand our competitors. And in that scenario, advanced oxidation processes would be a main competitor. But again, we view our energy efficiency as a way that we can have that competitive advantage over our competitors.
Okay, great, yeah. Michael has another question, great.
Sorry, anyone else should feel free to ask questions, but I'm just wondering about fouling and particulates. How vulnerable is your system, and how does it compete with the other systems out there in the market with dealing with quite dirty water situations that you might occasionally encounter?
Thank you, that's a good question. We have done extensive research on that, and we know that now it would not be our AOS alone that would be responsible. We would have it as part of a system that would be elements upstream that would ensure that the water quality is sufficient to prevent quick fouling of the AOS. We do know that, for example, TSS and turbidity are important, but for example, in comparison to UV, we are less sensitive, so we can have more TSS and turbidity in the water and still see performance that UV cannot, just partially due to like blockage of the UV rays into the wastewater.
Great, thank you. We've still got a bit of time for questions, so if anyone else wants to throw another question into the chat, feel free to do so. Maybe I'll go back to Arun just to make sure that your comment was addressed, or a question, if you wanted to elaborate on that at all. Feel free to jump in.
I mean, it's just a personal opinion, from that experience of pitching to VCs and everything. So I feel like when I saw your go-to-market slide, I felt that was more of a long-term milestone as an organization. And for your go-to-market, maybe it would be better to precisely describe what target market you're entering. Like you said, it could be direct to consumer, it could be B2B. I think it would be very good to define that market, and to help investors understand how are you guys approaching to enter the market. Because go-to-market for me would be more of a right now, what are we planning to do, and milestones could be your long-term milestone.
Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, great suggestion. Let me see. Okay, yeah, Michael's got another question just about, yeah, go ahead. I won't ask your question for you.
Sure, just wondering what kind of advisors would be most useful to you, Laura, as you go forward with your plan?
I think just people advisors that can help us to understand our markets and to understand what we can achieve and what type of capture we can get. So types of things like that, just to have to understand the market better and to see where we can go and help us, and not only in the poultry market, but also as we expand to other markets, because we really see the AOS as being a system that is multifunctional across several markets. And we were pulled through collaborations to this poultry market, and we were able to see strong performance, and we were able to validate the technology. So that was quite exciting to us, but we also have a partner who has been involved from the beginning with us, and they're also excited to see how this technology can help them at their facility.
Great. Yeah. So anyone else who has some marketing comments or marketing advice, feel free to get in touch with Laura. We have one question here from Craig Sherburne. If you want to jump in, that might end up being our last question.
Well, better be a good one then, Craig.
Make it good.
Like many things and in massive innovations, I see your system and I can't, I'm stunned that the world isn't beating a path to your door. So what do you feel is the big impediment to getting this installed in the out there in the marketplace?
I think so for the initial poultry market, I think right now our biggest struggle is we need to have a commercial pilot at large scale to demonstrate that that what we saw at pilot scale is true and that we were able to treat the water. I feel in the water market there is a barrier. It's hard to get in because people are comfortable with the technologies they use, and we need to be able to clearly demonstrate how disruptive we are and that we are making a significant change to the water market.
Inertia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. Hey, and when you figure out how to overcome inertia in the marketplace, please tell all of us.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Laura. That's an excellent pitch. Just as Craig mentioned there, definitely something that I think would be very, very useful to many markets. So can't wait to see you continue and be successful with this. So thanks again. And if you see any other questions, if anyone does have any other questions, feel free to throw those into the chat, and potentially Laura can answer those in the chat, or get in touch with her.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so for the next presentation, we have Tanveer. So Laura, if you want to unshare your screen, and then Tanveer can start sharing his screen. So Tanveer Ahmad, Director and CEO of, is this an acronym or is this an actual name? AMRICH, I believe, AMRICH Incorporated. So, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So I believe you're developing industrial applications of chitosan materials and seeking investment as well as contract finance and legal, industry, marketing, and regulatory advice. So lots to look for there. We've got hopefully lots of people in the room. Now, Tanveer, how's the screen sharing coming?
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I can hear you. So that's the first step as well. And again, as usual, so yeah, you've got 5 minutes. I'll put the 2 minutes up like this when you've got 2 minutes left, and 1 minute, and so on. And if anyone has a question, even throughout his presentation, feel free to put that into the chat at any time, and then I will ask you to jump on at the end.
Thanks, Trevor.
No problem. Thanks. You ready to go then? I don't see your screen. If you do have slides, I don't see them yet.
All right. Here we go.
Great. Perfect. Yeah, see them now.
Well, thank you very much, Trevor and Michael, for giving me the second opportunity. I was here before the COVID. Well, I'm representing AMRICH-Inc. Limited Canada. We are a small innovation company here in Edmonton. I opened up on 2014 August with the slogan called Technology, Science, and Environment. So we were founded by two of us. You see on my right, Dr. Lucien Zhou. He's a president and he's a pathophysiologist. He's a PhD scientist from Tokyo University, Japan. So I will talk about our experiences a little bit in this presentation, other than the robust IP I'm presenting. We have IP in place last year in response to COVID-19 to protect the senior citizens, to protect the vulnerables in a hospital, non-clinical and clinical setting. So that is all about my presentation today. So I will move on to the next. Well, I am the founder of this robust IP called ECAPS, Environmental Healthcare Protection System, published with the Innovation, Science and Economic Development Canada. As well, we had a lawyer placed in US. Well, my business journey started at the age of 17 with a small retail store in a metropolitan city of over 15 million population. And then I moved to China in 2004 for studies, where along my studies in clinical medicine, I export over thousands of tons of steel and natural fertilizer. So I had a direct business experience with those fields. Coming back to AMRICH, we have produced within the first year, we produced the world's most cost-effective hearing aid machine for one single large customer in Indian market, and we sold over 16,000 of units. Apart from that, I've been a social voice, so I put some policy advice to Honorable Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, Mr. Jason Kenney, the Premier of Alberta, on economic diversification and some plans about environmental protection and alternative industrial development. Similarly, I've a decade of stay in China, so I've seen those industrial developments back in China. I give some practical advice on trade imbalance issues between India and China. That's where my business journey starts. It's I'm glad to see this picture 20 years ago back home. And that's where I started my business journey. And are we going next? So we handle a $3.5 million outsourcing manufacturing contract. So my today's presentation, like I said, we developed last year a robust IP for digital disinfectant device, and I will focus on there. What I'm covering in next part of the slide: founder, milestone, validation, market traction, build to buy approach, and some of the market. Well, we are headed by R&D scientist, as I mentioned earlier. So his first work in Japan was the application of Cardacein on a human respiratory environment, inhibitory effect of Cardacein on the influenza virus and nanoscale morphology. If you see, I'm not going to share all in all, but if you see that some of his technological development were taken by Japan's Omron Corporation for treatment of bird flu, and Mitsubishi Chemical for making absorbent films in medical dressing and kidney dialysis. Other than that, Japanese White Cross Corporation has made some masks from that. Our current focus is on prevention of diabetes complication, STDs, and emerging wearable devices.
And we've just got about a minute left, Tanveer.
Sure. So, the reason I'm here for asking for a strategic partnership for digital disinfectant device that can effectively clean all the microbes from indoor environment. So here's the efficacy data. This technology is very effective, more than 70% in all indoor spaces against all commonly occurring microbes, and 99% plus for those microbes like Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA that cause serious respiratory illness. I wish we could have launched this technology before COVID-19, so we could have deal with the mortality rate, at least 20% in the worldwide. Here's some of the market traction that shows that it could go 7 to 10 years over $1 billion. I have done some validation in the healthcare sector, which includes the Canadian Institute of Health Research. I share some of the points. So our next build to buy approach is that we want to repeat the efficacy data by partnering up. I see on this forum some of the folks from healthcare departments. So we are looking for a strategic partnerships to repeat the efficacy data in clinical and non-clinical setting. And from there, after we have that, we want to go for exit by licensing to the large partner like Johnson & Johnson or any other 5 firms globally. Okay. So we have a couple of more IPs. That's why I call it robust IP, because I build it in a layer by layer strategy. That's all from me on the presentation side. But my market is senior homes, elder population, because we are using a very safe material. Any products in the healthcare that goes on 3 parameters: efficacy, safety, an exception in the healthcare professionals. So I have done some of significant validation in that sector. Thank you for watching me. I'm open for your question.
Thank you very much, Tanveer. Yes, great presentation. And if anyone has any questions, please add them to the chat. We've only got about a minute left. But hopefully, hopefully there's a couple questions there. Just give a second for anyone to throw their questions into the chat.
Just wondering, Tanveer, what would be the one thing that you want today out of this pitch? An advisor, investment, or what is the one key thing that you need?
I want, first thing I would like to see is the strategic partnership with the university folks, that we can quickly repeat the efficacy data, like I say, so we can talk those on, more on advice, and I can talk more in details that how are we going to make it happen. The second, for investors, this is very simple, that I already done with some market research, a lot of things. This is a technology that doesn't have any competitor in the market. Only competition, if you see, is the UV light, that you can say is the closest competitor, but we already have a lot of advantages over them when it comes to the product side, safety. So we have a lot of competitive advantage on that.
Great. Yeah. So anyone at the university in this space, definitely reach out to Tanveer, or if you know someone, he's looking for connections. So please connect him with anyone who you might know there. And I believe that's all we have time for. So thank you very much for your presentation, Tanveer. And yeah, hopefully you can make some of those connections that you're looking for, and eventually, move towards getting that investment. So I believe I will now pass it back to Michael, and those were the presentations that I was going to be introducing. So it was definitely a pleasure. Thanks again. I'm hoping to stick around and watch some more of the presentations, but I'll pass it back to you.
And I'll just hand over to Chris, who's chairing this next session. Thanks very much, Chris.
Thanks, and it's great for Isaac to be here to get us started introducing TJ Zastrow, the founder at Theses2, and I noticed his presentation's already on the screen and ready to go. So he'll tell us more about the technology helping small indie brands find customers and launch virtual local markets. So go ahead, TJ.
Oh, there we go. I'm unmuted. Can everyone hear me okay? Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sounds good. I'm TJ Zastrow. My focus is trying to help indie brands get more exposure and sales, while also helping you to shop local as well as support with your ethics in mind. So let me just, there we go. So a lot of indie brands are having a hard time being able to really showcase and get traffic to their products, their stores. It's never been easier for them to be able to spin up some type of e-commerce platform store. These are independent cosmetic brands, D2C brands, designers, creators of all kinds. A lot of them have designed products and having them manufactured, sometimes overseas, sometimes right here at home. And it's just a matter of getting their exposure and traffic to their websites. Like I said, it's really easy for them to create a Shopify store or a Squarespace, sell stuff on Instagram, but getting the traffic to their website requires a lot of work. Let's look at the market though for a second. The total global e-commerce market is 4.97 trillion, with North America biting off 552.6 billion of that in 2021. That's been a 400% increase in the last 7 years alone. And that's only on track to project to increase. So right now, for them to get traffic, a lot of these indie brands have to create content, do SEO ranking, pay-per-click advertising, and affiliate programs, social media, all those kinds of things that go into running a business and driving traffic. It's a hassle for a lot of them because a lot of them are independent solo makers, founders, artists, and the like. So their primary focus is just getting the products out the door, getting customer orders fulfilled on time, and being able to make sure their customers are happy. currently there's a lot of big box alternatives, I guess, to these independent brands that threaten them. We've all seen mom and pop stores being run out of Main Street. This happens online as well. When there's encroachment of keywords being advertised by these big box stores, the smaller brands just can't compete to rank for certain words and terms. So they have to get creative of how they market themselves. I'm looking to help you vote with your dollar and to shop with your ethics in mind and locally. So these are just a few of the filtering parameters that I'm going to be offering. So you'll be able to shop sustainably manufactured goods, vegan, women-owned businesses, companies that give back, such as B Corps, Fair Trade certified, handmade, recycled, upcycled content, and more. So this is just a snapshot of the website that I'm currently building out and getting ready to launch. This would be just some of the filtering options you would have, as well as being able to shop by category as you're used to. And I just want to give a little bit about myself. So my background is actually design, copywriting, visual arts, and I've taken a couple swings at some entrepreneurship, a couple startups that I've been able to spin up. One of them, I was able to serve clients such as Amazon, Tom's Shoes, the National Research Council of Canada, and GitHub. I'm currently looking for mentorship and guidance as I get ready to launch this. I can talk more about my go-to-market strategy in the Q&As if you want. And I'm also looking for a technical co-founder of some sort. That's all I have for you. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, TJ. And I invite anyone to put your questions in the chat. Just you, Daria, did you want to ask your question as right away here? Was the first one that came in.
Yeah, absolutely. What a great idea and such an exciting layout. I think there's definitely a demand for it, but I feel like we're going to see a rise of several similar platforms in the near time, just because there's such a big demand for something like this. So I'm wondering if you've looked into your kind of competitors, the competitive landscape, and what is your plan to make sure that you stand out and are able to attract a large market share?
Absolutely, Daria. Great question. So there are definitely competitors popping up as far as people, and I fully welcome them. I think the more people that are serving, it's a giant market, like I demonstrated. And so the more people that are serving independent, smaller brands, the better, especially when it's local focused. I love that. So I wouldn't in any way like shudder because of competition. I think what makes me stand out is, given my background in the arts, I have a strong aesthetic eye. And so therefore my ability to curate brands and be really picky about the kinds of curation. Really, at the end of the day, you're only going to return to a shop. You might go anywhere once, but you're only going to return to a shop when the curation is really high. And it's stuff that speaks to you. It feels cool and fresh and contemporary, and it's got that cool factor. So I have the ability to kind of identify these brands. I've gone through 30,000 Instagram profiles, and I've identified of those about 5,000 that I've curated North America wide. So those are the brands that I plan to start with and reach out to and kind of pull in their products into a platform.
Awesome. And just one more question. Have you thought about, what your exit strategy might look like? Would you consider, pursuing a partnership with a bigger player in the industry, such as, Etsy or even Shopify or something of that sort?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a company called Depop that just sold to Etsy for 1.36 billion. So there are definitely acquisition plays that I would be open to. I really like the idea of expanding into kind of more niche categories as well, and sort of having an umbrella brand be, I want that community focused and community led sort of experience. I want communities to be lifted up. And so that's where, no matter where it is, it's kind of, you're able to shop local. And that's kind of what Thesis 2 stands for.
Awesome. Thank you.
TJ, thanks. Michael also had a question here in the chat box. Michael, did you want to?
Sure, yeah, TJ, great aspirations. It's a very big space. I'm wondering if you were to focus on one area, like for example, eco or low carbon or sustainable or whatever, or something else, what would it be? Because I'm just worried that you're looking too big to begin with in terms of driving your traffic and your brand. It might be hard to manage all that.
Yeah, I think first and foremost local. The filtering options are kind of a secondary thing. So the ability to kind of come to the website and choose based on what you care most about. You know, if you want, if you really, really care a lot about the environment, you'd be able to focus on checking that box. But if you really care a lot about supporting women-owned businesses, you'd be able to check that box. So it's just a matter of what you want to see. I've just got those filtering options set up, but that is a good point, especially when the messaging comes across. I think first and foremost, it's supporting local and smaller brands. That's kind of, you know, brands that are independent, because that's really 83% of our economy is smaller independent brands, and that's what keeps the train on the tracks.
Thanks, TJ, and that was prudently on time. So we might have one last minute question, but everyone should have also seen the poll pop up in their screen here.
Yeah, just TJ, how are you going to monetize in 2 seconds?
Yeah, so to begin with, I'm planning on a go-to-market strategy of launching 72-hour window markets. So it'll be virtual online markets that people have access to. So I'll be monetizing the shoppers to begin with. That'll create the demand for the vendors to be there and show that it's worth their time showing up.
Great. So you can definitely follow up with TJ if you have that technical acumen or any of the requirements and requests. And we appreciate you taking the time to be here, TJ.
Thank you so much.
Our next presentation is from Tonya. If you can just pull up your screen there, Tonya Merrier, the founder at Flarechain business. She's seeking specific investment, 2.5 million, as well as advice on contracts, funding, industry links, regulations, tax credits, and just looking for you here, Tonya.
Hi.
There we go. We can hear you.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you. So we have also the other founder, Jeremie, just happens to be my husband, that was able to make it with us today. So thank you guys so much for hosting us. Like, this is really exciting for us. I've been following you guys for a while, and I've been waiting for the right opportunity to present, and I'm really excited to get started with you guys today.
Were you able to share your deck here?
Yes. So I did send it to you. Do you want me to share my screen?
Please do.
Okay. I think this is. All right. Can you see my screen?
We can see the Zoom, but just minimize the Zoom screen, and there we go. Just maximize that.
Awesome. There we go. Just took a second there. All right. So just kind of get into it, or?
Yeah, if you can go to the other screen, we can see all of your slides in the bottom.
Okay.
And if you have another window that has just the one slide on it, otherwise you could just roll through this if you prefer.
Yeah, I'll just roll through this because this is not the screen. Like, you guys are kind of in the way.
Okay. Well, we can see it.
Okay, perfect. So basically, I will get started. So our company is Flarechain Energy. I will keep going. So basically, what our goal is to eliminate inefficiencies with our innovation. So briefly, what the business is basically it's a business of flare mitigation. So we capture natural gas that would otherwise be flared and use that to generate power. So we're going to kind of go through this. So Flarechain is working towards harnessing wasted power and eliminating routine flaring in the oil and gas industry. There are other industries as well that do flare their excess energy. Landfills are one. Also refineries do as well. We're really focusing on the oil and gas industry though, because they seem to be one of the biggest offenders here. So we're going to get into the problem, our mission, market, solution, how we monetize a few of our competitors, our plan for growth and teams. I know we have a super limited, get rid of that. We have super limited time here. So we're really just going to fly through it because there's a lot to unpack. So what we're doing basically is we're going to be reducing greenhouse gases that are caused by the oil and gas industry. We're basically bringing value to the stranded energy through computation. And I'll get a lot more into that shortly. Why we're doing it is flaring is a huge greenhouse gas emissions problem. We have around 275 million tons of CO2 emissions, 3 million tons of which is through methane. We're doing it right now, I think is the right time to kind of get into this. This is something that we're solving multiple problems at the same time. We're solving environmental problems, commercial problems, and regulatory problems. And this is something that seems to be on the world stage as everybody's trying to kind of work towards greener technologies. So I think this is a really great time to kind of get into this. So flaring basically is when you see those flares that are up in the air on the oil and gas wells when you're driving, past a refinery or through the county. That is actually a gas byproduct that is coming as a result of oil wells, basically. Most of them are flared because they don't have access to a pipeline. So it's basically just wasted energy that we're looking to harness. So this is basically the same information here. A few numbers here. So there's 90 oil producing countries. There's over 519,000, some say up to 900,000 active oil and gas wells in Canada and the United States alone. So there's actually millions in the world that are currently flaring and basically wasting millions of tons of natural gas per day. 145 billion cubic meters of gases are flared annually. So that is actually something that basically the international community has been trying to address. They're right now pretty far off target to mitigate those gases. So our technology basically will be able to reduce the flaring emissions by around 90%. And that's actually depending on the quality of the gas that's coming out of the well. And it will take 100% of the computational load. So it's not like these computers that are going to be utilized are going to be plugged into any other source of energy. It's actually reducing 100% of the computational load. So if anyone knows about cryptocurrencies, I'm sure you've heard a lot about the energy consumption that is being used by cryptocurrencies. So basically mining Bitcoin is just under the energy consumption of Norway. So it uses quite a bit of energy, and in the future we'll be using more. So basically our solution is to take the natural gas that's being wasted and partner that with Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency computation. So this is actually what that would look like. So currently the method that is being used in oil and gas for flaring, there's the well, there's the separator, the oil gets stored, and then the byproduct here gets flared off. And that's what you see when you're driving down the road, those flares that are up. Basically what we're trying to do is we will, instead of the well going to the separator and then it being flared, what's happening is we're putting that natural gas through a generator, which is then powering a data processing center.
So Tonya, just a quick note that there's about 2 minutes left for your presentation. So if you can jump into the ask and what is the compelling value proposition for your investor.
Perfect. See that there's a lot to unpack. Thank you. So yeah, basically what we're doing in terms of revenue streams is we're mitigating the flares themselves, crypto mining, and also we're capturing the carbon credits that we're able to sell back into the grid. So we do have a couple competitors right now. There's not very many people in this so far, so we're very early into the market. So yeah, basically I'd rather go through it. So like there's not very much more to go into for this. We do have a very strong team. A lot of the people that we have got for our advisors are advisors for different countries for their energy consumption and environmental. Yep. So what we're looking to do is kind of have it on a little bit of a bigger scale, where we can offer a solution to whole industry as opposed to, you know, people here and there. So this is our team. I don't want to ramble on any longer if you guys have any questions.
Great. Michael asked one question in the chat. We probably only have time for the one about the options for separating and selling other gases as part of your process.
Like hydrogen.
Hydrogen, that's actually not a big part of what is being burned off. Most of it is natural gas. A lot of it, and it's methane. Yeah. So, well, natural gas is comprised of mainly methane. So although there are other gases that could be used, what we're doing is we're trying to mitigate what would otherwise be burned off, where a lot of times hydrogen would be captured specifically to be resold, where this is just actually a byproduct that would not be captured otherwise.
Yeah. Thanks, Tonya. It definitely is a complex value chain, and it will be great, I think, for some of the folks on the call to understand that flow through, how you expect to monetize, and any follow-up questions. I noticed that TJ's link it was in the chat earlier, and if Tonya and team can put some contact details in the chat, then anyone can follow up with you afterwards.
Yeah, that sounds great. Perfect.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
For the presentation today. Good to see you as well, Gilles.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
And the next presentation is coming from Vaultt, the founder, Audrey Bond. So I think, Audrey, if you're ready to share your screen and put up your presentation.
Working on that right now. Here we go.
We can see everyone's eyes. Thank you very much.
There. Everything works? You can see my screen?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh,
okay.
Go ahead.
Just to confirm, I've got 10 minutes to give my presentation. Perfect. Okay. I'll probably do it in 9 minutes and 43 seconds. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Audrey Bond, and I'm the founder and CEO of Vaultt. And a few years ago, I had a problem. My mother and father, who are both disabled, were living on their own in Montreal, and my dad has dementia. My mom's a paraplegic. And I remember there was this day when I realized everything was just going downhill fast. I paid them a visit, and they didn't seem to have enough food in the fridge. The bills weren't getting paid. Medical appointments were being missed. I'm certain prescriptions were being missed, and they weren't taking care of their health. My dad was falling more often than before, and things were spinning out of control. I had to take over their everything, their care, their prescriptions, their legal information, their house, their financials. And of course, I wanted to share everything with my brother because it was an overwhelming burden to deal with that on my own. I looked, and there was no easy to use, secure solution. I talked to my friends, and everybody seemed to be going through a similar situation. We were all struggling to organize the vital information for our loved ones. That's when I decided to build Vaultt. Vaultt is a secure information and communication platform for families and caregivers. Vaultt empowers families and patients through the ability to own, organize, and easily share vital information. The fully encrypted platform was built with privacy at the forefront, keeping users' personal information safe while enabling sharing and collaboration. You see, current solutions just don't work. Patients and families and caregivers are stressed and disorganized and overburdened with information and find it impossible to stay organized. It's fragmented and people are stuck in a world of data mined digital silos and good old fashioned paperwork like prescriptions, physio requisitions, and vaccination cards, to name a few. It needs to be brought together. In fact, until I had Vaultt, the POA, power of attorney form I had for my parents was in a folder on a shelf in my office and completely inaccessible in case of emergency. Vaultt empowers families and patients through the ability to own, organize, and easily share vital information. What's our secret sauce? Well, we have a few actually. We're patient and family centric. We're built with privacy by design and collaborative by nature. Using patent pending end-to-end encryption, we protect users' data so they can feel confident about their, sorry, the thing's popping up there, the poll. They can feel confident that their legal and medical information is secure. The future of healthcare is collaborative, and Vaultt's proxy technology allows users to collaborate with others in their circle of care, whether within their family, other caregivers, or medical professionals. We partner with care providers who are looking to elevate the patient experience and improve patient outcomes. We know that having families involved in the healthcare journey greatly improves patient care and outcome. The ability to collaborate, access, organize, and share vital health and personal information leads to better adherence to care plans, better adherence to medications, and of course, reduces the rate of hospitals readmission and healthcare costs. Our B2B2C SaaS model is quite simple. Currently, pharma pays for the annual subscription and distributes it through their patient support programs. Patients are provided with a holistic platform that helps them organize and track their vital health information, as well as other important information, essential information, such as legal or financial details, tasks, and appointments. The user can allow proxy access to any member of their family or healthcare circle. For instance, I can give my brother access to my parents' information, but not mine. I can even set an appointment in a shared calendar and task him to take dad to the cardiologist. I can send my health data, such as my blood pressure logs and graphs, to my doctor. I can share symptoms with a nurse in the patient support program. And in case of emergency, with a touch of a button, I can easily print, even email or fax a summary of my health status to those that need it. We have recently partnered with Boehringer Ingelheim, the largest private pharmaceutical company in the world, to build a feature within our platform to help their patients, specifically their patients with lung diseases like idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. They found that these patients were at a higher risk due to COVID, and although they were highly motivated to organize their information and collaborate on their health journey, they suffered from major disorganization due to fractured health and personal information. My health summary is transformative, as it allows patients and families to the ability to compile diagnoses, prescriptions, vaccinations, emergency and physician contacts, personal directives, designation of care, health insurance, and vital diagnostics in a PDF and instantly share it with a touch of a button. BI's, Boehringer Ingelheim's goal is to elevate the patient experience, help patients receive better care. And we're thrilled to have them as our first large customer with a 2-year contract value of $220,000 per year. I did need to throw in a personal story here about my dad, Lloyd. I have had the Lakeshore General Hospital on speed dial on my phone for the last 8 years. My parents are frequent flyers in Emerge. If you ask my dad when he's brought in how he's feeling, he's going to say, "I'm fine. How's your back feel?" "Great." "Lloyd, any chest pain lately?" "Nope, I'm fit as a fiddle." He's 90. And his current list of diagnoses includes, but is not limited to, severe scoliosis, arthritis, congestive heart failure, prostate cancer, which requires a catheter, and kidney disease, and dementia. So like most families, due to COVID, I'm unable to advocate for my dad to ensure this information is highlighted. Even if post-COVID, the world goes back to the way it was before, which is not expected, it will remain a challenge for many, as 30% of children that care for their aging parents do so from a distance. With a solution like Vaultt, My Health Summary, we will now be able to get vital information to intake, sometimes even before a patient arrives. We've also just recently partnered with the Ottawa Hospital, a partnership that will cover piloting the Vaultt platform with the newly added My Health Summary feature. They will be providing physician feedback on the new features such as symptom tracking, and will provide assistance with integration with their electronic health record system. We see huge potential with the Ottawa Hospital partnership, and there is great interest in using Vaultt as a method families will use to communicate and advocate with the ER. even in a post-COVID and COVID world. The patient engagement market is exploding and spending is increasing at a compound annual growth rate of 21.4%. Factors such as the growing burden of chronic diseases and the rise in the geriatric population have led to the adoption of patient engagement solutions worldwide. Patient engagement software will reach a market value of $34.5 billion in North America in the next 7 years. Privacy and security is a major concern for 85% of the population, and it's one of the largest obstacles in patient engagement technology. So we built Vaultt from the ground up using end-to-end encryption with this in mind. Vaultt is secure by design. It's in our DNA. It took us over 1.5 years and $750,000 to build Vaultt in a way that it was easy to use as Facebook, but like Fort Knox on your phone. I often tell people that it's more secure than your mobile banking app. We do not mine, process, run ads, or sell your data. The user is in full control of what information they share and with whom. We are bringing innovative technology to market that far outweighs that of any competitor. Health is a Canadian startup that is temporarily filling a need by retrieving patient records for patients at a cost of $60 per record. Chronically Simple was another app built by a founder with a problem. They were acquired by Innomar for an undisclosed amount of funds that is being used solely by Innomar. Opal is an app built by McGill University for the McGill University Health Center. Vaultt sets itself apart in many ways by positioning itself as a leader in secure, collaborative information management. During our many months of research and customer discovery, we have been meeting with many pharmaceutical companies, patient support programs, and advocacy groups. And we've been developing these relationships, and they're very strong, and we are moving potential partners through the sales funnel. We partner with care providers who are looking to elevate the patient experience and improve patient outcomes. Our aggressive sales push will bring Vaultt to 23,000 users and $1.7 million in annual recurring revenue by the end of 2021. The license price is $120,000 per 1,000 users. We're on a mission, and as we innovate and scale, our 3-year goal is just under 500,000 users, which will bring our ARR to $34.8 million. Every successful team has an exceptional support engine, and Vaultt has a very talented leadership team built for scaling. Vicki Iverson is our CTO and has built over 250 apps that has over 15 million users. Derek Lawless is our COO and has scaled his wellness apps to over 300,000 users around the globe. Derek Dupuis is our Director of Business Development and has spent over 20 years in healthcare. I'm going to quickly walk you through our timeline. In 2019, we raised $540,000 in our friends and family round, which funded our market research, branding, and app development. In the summer of 2020, we launched our iOS beta version. We closed 2020 with a partnership with Boehringer Ingelheim. We started 2021 with a bang and earning a Startup of the Year award. In Q1 2021, we focused on the development of the My Health Summary feature and an improved sign-up and onboarding. This quarter, we're going to be deploying Vaultt to 3,000 BI users. We also plan to sign up 1 new partner with 4,000 users. And after receiving great feedback from patients, we're developing a symptom tracking feature that will benefit both the patient and the physician care provider. The second half of 2021, we will be focused on immense growth as we grow our sales and success teams, build up features such as drug adherence solutions, and integrate Vaultt in electronic health record systems, starting with Epic. We are seeking $1.5 million to fund our massive vision to be a global leader with our evolving patient and family-centric health engagement platform. The funds will cover the completion of our web and Android platforms, feature upgrades, integrations, and expanded sales and marketing and customer success teams. I appreciate the opportunity to present Vaultt to you. We believe the future of healthcare is patient and family-centric, and we're on a mission to help improve patient care and outcomes by making it easier for patients, families, and caregivers by helping them protect, organize, and share life-saving information. Thank you very much for your time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Audrey. And just given the time, we've invited everyone to put their questions in the chat for you to follow up. Your presentation was comprehensive and got some good feedback, so we'll send out the poll right now. Moving conveniently into the healthcare session chaired by Anna.
Hello. Can anybody hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Anna.
Okay, thank you, Chris, for handing it over. Audrey, if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing your screen.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And I'm gonna invite Hagay Levy, who should be on our list of participants, to start setting up their presentation. Michael, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, we have about 8 minutes for questions or 7 minutes for Audrey. So should we chew through those?
Yes, please go ahead.
Oh, for sure. Sorry, it showed only 10 minutes here, so.
Yeah, I just wondering, Audrey, about multilingual.
Yeah, no problem. We're actually, we're ready to deploy French. It'll probably take about 1 week of dev time. So we've actually built Vaultt to be multilingual at the touch of a button. So we're ready. We just wanted to perfect the platform first in English.
And what kind of advisors would be most helpful at this point?
Yeah, we're looking for advisors in pharma, obviously, but also in hospitals. We are looking in the very near future to be expanding into the US market. We're also looking for some advisors that have familiarity with working with the Ontario Health or any kind of government provincial health sector.
Did you want to touch base or touch, Audrey, on your scalability plans for the US as well?
Sure. We recognize that there's great value for the Canadian hospitals. However, they're poor and they have limited access to funding. And we recognize that the American system works differently. So we're just starting to research what's available. We do have a smaller team, and that's why we're raising. With our expanded team, we'll be able to do a little bit more research in the States, but we know from people that we've been speaking with, there's huge potential and a much more ability to sell directly to hospitals.
Audrey, it's Patty from HS. I just put my email address in the link here.
Okay.
So Ontario, there's a multitude of other funding programs, or I can share.
Oh yeah.
With your innovation. So why don't you just connect with me? That's our generic email address for connecting with my team.
Great. Thank you, Patty. That's awesome.
Daria, it looks like you had a question as well.
Yeah, you touched on the fact that you are planning to expand into the US as one of your bigger priorities. I'm curious what your thoughts on pursuing insurance companies and what are kind of the implications of that?
Yeah, great question. Actually, it's really funny. Last summer when we launched our beta, we got some coverage, and I was actually pitched by Great West Life, now Canada Life. So one of the board of directors actually reached out to us in speaking with some of the funds that we've speaking with for the seed round. They've really highlighted the fact that insurance are buying up health tech like all over the place because they see the value. So definitely we recognize that, you know, pharma is definitely a channel for us. It's a vertical, but there's huge potential for us in insurance, also in legal and financial.
Thank you.
Carla, you had your question as well?
Yes, the value of what you're doing is really apparent for rare disease organizations where gathering and sharing patient data is important.
Yes.
Have you looked into that at all? Because there's definitely non-dilutive funding opportunities that way.
Okay, Carla, so I'd love to speak to you about those funding opportunities for sure, please. But yes, you know, we've been speaking with scleroderma. We recognize that actually these rare diseases, these patients are the ones that have kind of the most complicated health. There are 33 million people in North America that have these rare diseases, very complicated health. They are also the most motivated to organize their information. So with working with Boehringer Ingelheim, and I know that Derek has been speaking with a number of other pharmas that have, you know, obviously that are supporting these patients with rare diseases. They are highly motivated and they're extremely interested and find great use with what we've got. So yeah, I'd love to talk about that funding, Carla.
Sure, I'll follow up with you offline. Thanks.
Thank you.
So the poll just popped up for everybody. Audrey, one of the questions, it would be great if you could also describe the distinction for Canada and your prioritization of hospitals versus the different provincial agencies versus insurance clients, and understand how you're pursuing each of those.
Mm-hmm. So we're a startup, we're still new. And right now, with a small team, we're really focused on pharma. And so with partnerships that we've seen with the partnerships with the hospitals that right now, the best method with them is we are doing the pilots, but the work that we're doing with the hospitals is actually bringing more value to pharma. They actually see that as a value add for themselves because now their patients are able to share that information with ER. So in regards to distinction of the deals with the hospitals versus insurance, as I mentioned, we're just putting our toes in that water. It's very new for us. So we are focused on pharma, we are focused on care providers, whether it's advocacy groups, patient support programs, and the like. And we are, again, just starting to work with hospitals, so it's new. So insurance is in the near future. We've just started with the hospitals, and pharma is where we're at right now.
Michael asked a question as well about your IP strategy and positioning in relation to competition.
Yeah, so we filed provisional. So we actually did that before I did my pitch, my first pitch that actually discussed specifically my health summary, the symptom tracking and our business model. So in regards to IP strategy, we've filed, and we are going to be working with. We're actually receiving support by IRAP. IRAP is supporting us as well on our strategy. IRAP actually also funds us. We're providing us. IRAP and FedDev have also been very supportive of our company and our vision.
Thank you very much. I think we've covered all of the questions, and we're just hitting on the last minute here now. If you have anything else or those particular introductions and gateways that Audrey is seeking, please follow up with her after the presentation. And Anna, it looks like you can take over here now.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Alrighty, so welcome everybody to the healthcare session. We have 3 participants today. There will be short presentations, 5 minutes for the presentation, 5 minutes for questions for each of them. Just as a reminder to the presenters, when you have 2 minutes left, I'll go like this in front of the camera so that you know that you have 2 minutes left. And I'll invite the rest of the advisors and participants to post their questions in the chat. And with that, I'd like to welcome Hagay Levy, founder and CEO for Iluria, that comes to us from Israel. Iluria is seeking $900K in investment as well as industry links. Take it away.
Definitely. So thank you so much. As you were saying, calling in from Israel. So my name is Hagay Levy. I'm the founder and CEO of Iluria. Iluria is a digital health company focusing on remote patient monitoring for mental and behavioral health disorders, starting with ADHD. And for those of you who are not familiar with it, ADHD is considered to be a chronic disorder with some short-term implications as inattention, hyperactivity, and impulsivity, and some pretty severe long-term implications if not properly treated. Please meet Elad. Just a second. Yeah. Elad is my 11-year-old son. He was diagnosed with ADHD at a very, very young age, and it was almost impossible for us to manage his disorder as we could never assess whether the medical treatment was effective or not. And Elad is not alone. 1 in 10 kids are diagnosed with ADHD, and the treatment is almost completely trial and error based. And the reason for that is that after the initial diagnosis, starts a never-ending calibration of the medical treatment as our physiology is changing. And this stage is completely trial and error based, using manual subjective questionnaires, same as it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, with some very poor clinical outcomes and enormous cost, which results from this labor-oriented process. And this is the gap that we want to close. We are developing a solution which will deliver continuous and objective monitoring. And the basic idea is to analyze changes in physiological markers. The system, the software, which reads physiological markers from any smart commercial device. And then we mathematically analyze the changes in these markers to deliver various analysis reports to the different stakeholders. And to elaborate in a few more sentences about the technology. So as I mentioned, the basic idea is to analyze changes in physiological markers, which are again, retrieved from any smart commercial device. And we developed and trained algorithms to automatically analyze the changes in these markers and deliver analysis which is DSM-5 compliant, meaning compliant with the gold standard. We completed a very successful clinical trial with the largest HMO in Israel. We started a clinical scale-up in the States with the Sanati Children's, And we also started a couple of similar processes in Europe. And just to conclude the product side, I will present you with the old versus the new. So in the current method, again, using the manual subjective questionnaires, everything is manual, very labor intensive, and very, very costly. Whereas in the new approach, by using passive measurements, using any smart wearable, we can deliver a continuous and objective monitoring in many different layers, starting from the daily patterns. Basically, we are creating proxy peak pharmacokinetics curves, aggregated data, meaning titration analysis, ongoing patterns, prediction models, and basically completely eliminating the trial and error element. A few words about the business. This slide is a bit US oriented, but this is the market that we are currently targeting as an Israeli company. We are targeting initially the bucket of the large providers and payers with a combined value proposition of not only better caregiving, but also immense cost reduction labor-wise. There are some other alternatives as a lowest hanging fruit. The parents are always a very valid target. And in some cases, they might be approached using existing platforms which assist them in mitigating processes. We have a couple of partnerships, such as the one that you see here. The pharma players are obviously major stakeholders, strategic-wise. We started some activity with the Takeda, but again, this is like a long-run activity. There are some other market segments, but it's a bit too early to elaborate on them yet. The total addressable market is quite large, taking into consideration the overall prevalence and the specific segments we are targeting. The cost reduction, which we almost completely solidified during the clinical trials, and the estimated price point. To conclude the presentation, I will describe our current status. We are an early stage company. I describe the traction clinically wise regarding the clinical trials. We've done, other than that, we've done a very, very long kickoff process. We secured the IP. It's a national phase for ADHD, and we already submitted provisional for future extension to anxiety and depression. We got both dilutive and non-dilutive funding, and now we're looking to close the seed round for actually several purposes. We want to deliver a commercial level MVP for the quick commercialization with a platform which is currently developed in AWS, and the clinical scale-ups, which I described previously. A few words about the team. In the internal team, we have many years of business, marketing, R&D, and data experience, mostly in medium-sized companies that afterwards exited. We have a lot of assistance from our advisory board, which are both clinicians, physicians, and computational biology experts. But aside from them, we are getting a lot of support from the providers we're working with, or specifically the physicians. As we mentioned, we're looking now to close the seed round. We already secured some funding to deliver, again, a working level MVP, a production level MVP, and to do the two scale-ups, the commercial quick scale-up and the two clinical scale-ups in the US and Europe. The Takeda activity is still under discussion as we're an early stage company, so this is not secure, but the first three elements are definitely a goal. So this is us. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Hagay. Very nice presentation. So I'm gonna ask the audience to let me know if they have any questions. They can either post on the chat or just speak up if they have a question. In the meanwhile, I had a quick one, if you don't mind, Hagay. Are you planning to come to Canada with your product?
So actually, the initial markets that we targeted, that we actually thought of targeting are the US, obviously, and actually Germany. Germany is a super interesting market. Again, I don't want to elaborate and to waste your time, but the reimbursement mechanisms over there are pretty much streamlined. Canada is obviously a major market. The go-to-market will be obviously different, so we haven't actually solidified it yet. But the clinical aspect and the better caregiving element of the value proposition is obviously similar. So obviously Canada is a very valid target as well. We haven't really solidified the go-to-market strategy yet.
No, that's super fair. It's a completely different type of approach, right. Canada compared to the US and the other markets you're looking at. So once you're ready to make that move, feel free to call me. I might be able to give you some pointers. I think we have a question here. Daria, do you want to ask it?
Yeah, absolutely. You've mentioned that you've been going through a clinical trials process and looking to obtain regulatory approval. I'm just wondering, what does that look like? What kind of data are you collecting? And what's the objective there? What are you measuring?
So this is a super important question. And actually, this is why our kickoff process was the longest kickoff process ever in startups history, because actually many mental health disorders and specifically ADHD are super intriguing in analyzing. Everything is subjective, questionnaires, and ADHD specifically is a very, very elusive disorder to analyze, even in the initial diagnosis. So I can just say, like in a couple of sentences, in the clinical trial in Israel, we basically took a group of patients. We've done several clinical diagnosis processes, and then we got a very, very clean ADHD scoring on a binary level, meaning off meds and effective or ineffective treatment. And then we trained the models to the preliminary models to analyze the changes in these markers and automatically identify the effective or ineffective treatment. Again, I can speak on and on that, but that was like the basic idea. And the overall accuracy was actually amazing in the sense of the strength of the data, and the p-value was very, very low. And so this is like, so to speak, a V1 product, meaning basically mimicking the binary decision, which is currently done by physicians. In the clinical trial with Cincinnati, we are actually doing very, very long measurements, like daily measurements for several days. And then we are, over there, we are actually training the more advanced sets of models to not only identify the binary element, meaning effective or ineffective, but to actually identify the patterns. Meaning, again, as I mentioned, we're basically training the algorithms to basically deliver proxy pharmacokinetics curves, so to speak, but in a more simple language, we're basically defining the patterns, not only effective or ineffective, but when is it effective, when is it max, what is the height of the max, what is the length of the tail, and so on. And again, last but not least, the basic idea is to deliver a decision support solution to the, or element to this blurry ecosystem. We're not therapeutic. We're not even engaged at this stage with initial diagnosis. The basic idea is to be a low-touch solution, to be embedded in the current processes, and to deliver decision support element to the current subjective and basically guesstimation process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, go ahead, Daria.
And just another question, what's who will be your primary payer? Will you pursue pharmaceutical companies or actual patients or parents of the patients, or would you go the insurance route? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, so this is a super important question, not only because of the fact that the product market fit is always the king, as one who's been living in startups for like 25 years now, but actually it's kind of an intriguing element, because in ADHD you have many, many stakeholders, and all of them are super valid stakeholders. You mentioned the parents, which are maybe the focal point, the physicians who are losing a lot of money, or the payers. So the immediate element, again, I'm talking US-wise, is to approach the large providers, the ones with the capitated fixed reimbursement, the ones who actually care about reducing the cost level, which is almost completely labor-oriented. Together with that, actually, I mentioned it before, the parents are a super valid target as well. We are not a B2C company. It's a different kind of company, but while leveraging the reach of some platforms that I mentioned, we can definitely touch base with the lowest hanging fruit type of a strategy. But again, it's like a B2B2C type of activity. And with regard to the pharma, so obviously the pharma are a very valid target, not only in the sense of the strategic titles of precision medicines and better caregiving, but also in our ability to enhance their engagement with the clinicians, which is a super important element for them. Again, to work with pharma players, we need to be in production, obviously, and we are not in production yet. But I do believe that we would need to get some larger data sets to start working with pharma. So just to close the loop, the overall target, US and Germany-wise, are basically the providers, the large ones.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. John, did you have a question? If you can't find your microphone, I can ask it for you.
I think I've got it. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I just had a question on one of the first few slides you had mentioned or demonstrated that you've proven out some of the clinical aspects with some wearable technologies.
Yeah. So again, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just curious what kind of wearable technologies, because I know of a company in the US doing a wearable kind of a little buzzer watch to increase the patient's or the kid's attention. And they've done some work with some schools and stuff like that. So I'm wondering if there's any potential tie-ins with the wearable market.
Yes, you're talking about, I forgot the name of this company, but basically it buzzes you.
Revive Technology.
Revive, exactly. Obviously, I know Revive. Revive, they are not basically they're doing something which is not therapeutic, but it's like letting the patient know when the patient is losing attention. We're doing something which is completely different in many layers. First of all, we are not a hardware company. We need the vitals. We need to analyze the changes in the heart rate or heart variability or angular movement or galvanic skin response. We basically need the vitals. So any smart, validated commercial wearable will do, meaning any Fitbit, any Apple Watch, any smart disposable patch. We're basically agnostic to the wearable. And the second element, which is kind of different from Revive, is the goal. Their goal is to deliver, again, it's not a therapeutic element, but it's some sort of assisting the patient in mitigating the daily processes attention-wise, or maybe improving it. We are doing something which is extremely specific and kind of very, very specific in the sense of analyzing the effectiveness of the medical treatment. We're not engaged, obviously not in therapeutics. We're not engaged in the behavioral element of ADHD. We're hyper-focused on analyzing whether the medical treatment, let me just jump forward for 1 second, is effective or not, starting with the daily element, meaning to understand whether the medication was effective cognitive-wise, meaning attention-wise, during the day, how much it was effective. Again, it's extremely misleading in ADHD. You have inattention, hyperactivity, impulsivity. The medication can lower the hyperactivity and impulsivity and not affect the attention. I know it from a personal level, but it's well known. So we are kind of different from Revive because of the focus. We are hyper-focused on analyzing the pharma aspect.
Okay, good, thanks.
Sure.
Can I ask you, are there any other competitors trying to do something similar to what you're doing, other than, obviously those, surveys or questionnaires that you were mentioning? Definitely those are being administered as a standard of care, but are there other technologies out there trying to monitor how drugs function?
Yeah, so the immediate competition comes from the clients, actually, not only in the sense of the workflows of using questionnaires, but actually the large providers. I mentioned Cincinnati, which they are our partners, but some others, Cleveland Clinic, Boston Children's, some of the more advanced providers took the questionnaires processes and streamlined the questionnaire processes and actually wrapped it up in software packages. In Cincinnati Children's, they developed a system. It's called Me Health ADHD. And basically this internal legacy system streamlines ADHD processes and delivers analysis reports regarding the effectiveness of the medical treatment. Again, the basic element which is kind of missing currently in systems such as the Me Health for ADHD is the fact that the data feed is questionnaire based. So again, it takes a lot of time and effort to accumulate it. And the output and the raw data is obviously subjective because it's teachers filling in questions. So actually with Cincinnati Children's, the overall goal is for us to integrate into this solution and provide SaaS level of service. There are many gadgets in the ADHD area, but let me ignore them. I'm not talking about clinically validated solutions, again, many gizmos and gadgets, but there are some other super interesting technological solutions. Two companies which are called Owl Insights and Cognoa. They are both like B-round companies. They are focusing slightly more on the behavioral element of ADHD rather than the clinic, the pharma element. And technologically, they're doing something completely different. Owl Insights are basically analyzing a self-assessment. Again, I'm simplifying it. Cognoa are analyzing basically video patterns. We're analyzing markers. But again, basically, they are also trying to illuminate, in some sense, this messy ecosystem, again, from different angles, both clinically and technologically.
Thank you very much, Hagay. Daria, did you have another question? We've lost Daria.
No.
Oh.
No, I'm good. I got it. Thank you.
Nope, all good, all good. Anybody has any other questions?
I just put a comment in. It's Patty from HS. I just asked about the value-based reimbursement. I saw that on the slide, just looking at economic impact and what you mean by value-based reimbursement, please.
Yeah, so we don't know what do you mean by value-based reimbursement, because the value-based mechanisms are kind of new. Actually, in Germany, it's very advanced. But talking about the US, the basic idea is to, again, value proposition-wise, is to reduce the cost. And technically wise is basically to leverage CPT codes and not HEDIS codes or other value-based mechanisms. The value-based element is definitely there, but specifically in ADHD, the path hasn't been carved yet in the sense of proving to whomever we should prove, the state or the payer or whomever, that we can actually improve the service, the clinical treatment, and then get paid for that. So I mentioned the value-based reimbursement as in the sense of the value proposition, and I do believe that we will be able to actually get paid for the better service, but it's not streamlined yet. It's not cemented yet. Sorry, comparing it to the CPT codes, again, cost reduction. So we're still trying to find out what are the value-based mechanisms we can utilize.
I just asked because we are looking at value-based outcomes in Alberta, supporting shared outcomes with industry around a shared model of care. So we've been initiating some of our requests for proposals that are value-based outcomes, so that there's that shared responsibility between a company and ourselves. We just issued quite a large one around virtual diabetes. So I was just curious, and your value proposition is something we would be very interested in from a healthcare perspective when you look at the cost and who's paying, who's there at the end of the day in the healthcare system.
Thank you, Patty, and thanks a lot, Hagay. You've done a terrific job. This is an amazing technology. Best of luck to you. All right, so now we're moving on to our next presentation. Jeremie, if you're there, you can start setting up your slides, please. Jeremie Bourqui is the CEO of Waveview Imaging, and he's seeking $500,000 investment as well as advice on industry, financial, legal, and regulatory aspects. Are you ready, Jeremie?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get rid of that poll. You know what, I gotta try to stop sharing first.
Yeah, you might have it on a different screen, perhaps. You might have your presentation on a separate screen.
Yeah, you know what, at this point here, I have technical difficulties. I cannot click on anywhere.
We can also swap if Kim wants to go next, and that will give Jeremie a little more time.
Yeah.
Kim, are you on board? Oh, that looks
there
good.
We go.
Yeah, we can see it just maximized.
Okay,
now.
Sorry. I guess I was clicking on so many buttons that it went through. Okay, so you can hear me and you can see my presentation, correct?
Absolutely, go
Fantastic.
for it.
Perfect, thank you. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeremie Bourqui. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Waveview Imaging, which is a startup company developing a new technology for breast cancer imaging. So as you know, breast cancer is a major problem. It impacts 2.1 million women every year worldwide. It is about a quarter of the cancer diagnosed among women, and it will impact 1 in 8 women in North America over a lifetime. We know that effective neoadjuvant treatment reduces the risk of relapse, but ineffective treatment are detected too late. Today's current care is to use manual palpation to be able to detect the effect of the treatment on the tumor. And that takes up to 6 to 9 weeks in order to see any noticeable changes to know if the treatment is working or not. This is too long to stay on a treatment that is not working, and also too long to be in the dark, not knowing if the treatment is working or not, and that induces stress to the patient. There is a need to get treatment faster. There is also a need to reduce the patient anxiety, and our technology can respond to those needs. So microwave imaging is the technology we are developing, and we are hoping to be able to measure tumor response within a week. Our technology has many advantages. It is safe. It can be used as many times as needed. It is easy to use and compact, and can be used at the point of care directly, so no need to go for another appointment to another location. It uses much less compression than mammography. The images are taken in minutes, and it is not operator independent like ultrasound can be. And finally, our automated image analysis will provide the information that the oncologist needs to see, and also valuable information to the patient. So you may wonder, why microwave imaging? Important things to know is that microwave sense water, and tumors have the highest water content in the breast tissues. On those 2 images here, they are taken with our device from a patient who had breast cancer on the right breast. We can clearly see that we have a tumor located on the right breast as the property increased. Tumor water, and also things to know is that the tumor will lose the water content as it responds to the treatment. And as shown on the graph on the right, we will be able to monitor the effect of the treatment by monitoring the loss of the water of the tumor. Sorry, I just saw you doing 2 minutes. I have only 2 minutes left. Oh, okay. So yeah, so I had 10 minutes. Okay, I'll speed things up. So we have our prototype here that we are using at the Tom Baker Cancer Center. We are monitoring side effect of radiation treatment, and you can see here on the images the changes in the breast tissues from the left and the right hand side. And the prototype here consists of basically 2 array of sensors, in between which we place the breast, and we put the 2 arrays together to put our sensor in contact with the breast and take our images. Here the key is to have the contact with the skin, not to have compression. As I mentioned, we will be able to detect changes, effect of the treatment sooner, because we're not only monitoring the size of the tumor, and that would take a long time to detect if the treatment is working or not, but we're also monitoring the properties of the tumor, i.e. the water content. That would allow us to detect an ineffective treatment much earlier, and to be able to switch to a treatment that works right away. And we will be able to know if the treatment is working or not. And effectively, at the end, we will have a better outcome for the patient. So we are not the only one developing such a technology, but our competitors are focusing on breast cancer screening. Their devices are much more complicated and much bigger and bulky. Our device is compact and simple to operate, as we are focusing on treatment monitoring. And we also are demarking ourselves by patenting our proprietary sensor that is a key part of our device. Our primary market are cancer centers. There is about 1,500 cancer centers in North America and 6,000 worldwide. Secondary market are imaging clinics and doctor offices, as we believe our technology could be used in other situations than treatment monitoring. We will need early adopters, and we will seek them to distributors to sell our device. To try to increase awareness of our device, we'll publish articles in journal paper and connect with key opinion leaders. Also promote to patients, which are one of the primary beneficiary of the device that will reduce anxiety, among other things. And we will also try to partner with sites that may run direct treatment clinical trials to help them get preliminary results faster. Once our device is sold, we will be a one-stop shop that can provide software upgrades, training, and maintenance and database services. Over the lifetime of our device, we hope to have a revenue stream of about $170,000. Currently, we are putting online our new device that will be used for clinical testing at the Tom Baker Cancer Center. Once we have our data available, we will be seeking a seed investment of $500 million to help us start on our clinical trials and also updating the device and looking at the FDA requirements specifically for clinical trials. And the journey will take us up to 2025, where we hope to have a first sale, and that will require about $4.5 million in investment. We have a strong team with people that can develop technology, and we have great advisors. But we are definitely looking at advisors in industries that are much more connected with medical imaging. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremie. Very interesting technology. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, so we'll just have one question and move on to the next one. Daria?
Hello, just a quick question about the intellectual property in the company. Do you have any patents filed? What's the situation there?
We have one patent filed and one that we are working on right now.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I'll invite the rest of the advisors to post their questions and or contact Jeremie privately so that they can get some support for this interesting technology. In the meanwhile, we're going to move on to our next presenter, Kim Solez from JustMachines. If you want to start setting up your presentation. Kim, are you there?
While they're presenting, could I just ask, Jeremie, how are you competing? Just on price, or do you have more specificity or lower false positives or false negatives?
So we're competing mostly on the advantage of the technology that is able to detect the effective the treatment sooner than no other technology can. So mostly on that, but also we don't want to be expensive, so we want to be affordable.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, Anna, go ahead, please. Thanks.
Kim, I don't know if you, yes, no problem, Michael. Kim, I don't know if you have a presentation that you want to share with us, or you're on mute if you're trying to talk to us.
Okay.
We can hear you now. Do you have a presentation, or are you just going to talk to us? Either one's fine.
I don't see the presentation here.
It's there somewhere.
Yes, I know. Try this once more here. Okay, one more try.
Can you see my screen now with your JustMachines?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Can you see JustMachines on my screen?
No, no. Let's go back to me trying to share.
Okay.
Okay, let me try it again. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you about JustMachines, reimagining scale of intervention in medicine. Humanity's biggest problems are not overwhelming for AI. And engaging artificial intelligence in this effort reaffirms for AI the basic goodness of human beings. I teach a course on technology and the future of medicine, which has as its underlying theme, medicine writ large, the social responsibility of medicine, how health can be improved by fixing problems in society. The course teaches about a future in which machines are as smart as individual humans in 8 years and as smart as the whole aggregate human race in 14 to 24 years. That then brings up the question of AI alignment, how machines smarter than us will treat humans. No ideal solution has been
I will
proposed.
send you a person number. Okay. His name is Solomon. Solomon. Okay.
Could
He's
we
King
mute
Solomon.
that?
So
Static rules for AI will not survive self-improvement steps, and regulation will likely not work because regulatory bodies will not fully understand AI. So the third way to deal with that is to entrust AI with trying to work out the big 6 human problems, which are, as listed here, male aggression, nuclear war, climate emergency, systemic racism, COVID-19 pandemic, and colonialism. And if these seem too complicated to you, imagine protein folding. The human mind cannot understand protein folding, but AI already solved protein folding last year. So assuming human cooperation and having something to measure in each of these 6 areas, AI could also assist us in solving these 6 areas that humans seem unable to solve themselves. For that, because we're dealing with all the population of the earth, all 8 billion, we need radically high increment new organization. An ordinary corporation would not be able to do this. And the characteristics here would be spirit of openness and ready to accomplish things that corporations can't do themselves. Working towards solving the big 6 problems, if a large-scale AI effort was mounted on all 6, we would rapidly succeed in solving at least one, causing people to redouble their efforts in the other 5. AI then gains a better and better dynamic understanding of the wants, needs, and aspirations of human beings, the basic goodness of human beings, and the benefits of that to the world. We have over 1,500 videos on YouTube, and since 2018, we have made many videos where we advocated a more accurate depiction of AI online. Every single one of those videos was responded to. There are no exceptions. Many of the things we complained about, you can't even find any evidence for except our screen captures. So we've done that before, we can do it again. So the target is those people who can make the changes to get the work started in the 6 areas. The most visible people should be those already immersed in the problem. We need to support the researchers in the 6 areas who would help us come up with something we can measure, something we can quantify, and something that humans can cooperate with. But perhaps a solution already exists in the Future of Life Institute grant program suggested a week ago. So our product is stimulating others to undertake these problems, convincing them that these AI approaches can work, and having them undertake the fix. Income would be consulting contracts, seeking advisors to support and improve JustMachines, Inc., to help us write the Future of Life Institute grant. And we would start with systemic racism. It may seem to you like the hardest, but it's the easiest to quantify. And you could all in your mind think of things you could measure there. In particular, in Black medical students at the University of Alberta. So I mean, it starts very local. Their experience with racism, we've already had a lot of interaction with them. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Kim. That's a very innovative approach to solving problems. I like to ask the audience if they have any questions. We have only 1 minute left, unfortunately, but that still leaves us some room for questions. In the meanwhile, so can you tell us, Kim, how you're planning? The AI is hopefully going to tell you, you know, how to solve these problems, and then what about the implementation?
Well, we have already stimulated people to take action. I mean, high impact education is when you change human behavior. We have done a lot of that. So in each of these 6 areas, we would get people to actually start solving this after convincing them that there's something to measure in a way that humans can actually cooperate in making this work. And I think you would agree that all 6 areas are areas where it's not clear humans alone will succeed in doing this. The graphic behind me, if you think the scale of this is too big, think of civilizations type 1, where they'll have megastructures like this, and then civilization type 2. You've all heard about this. How are we going to get that done? What's the organization that would do it? There's no scale too large. There's no harm, no penalty for somebody thinking too big. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you. I'm pretty easy to contact. There's no one bigger presence online than me, so you won't be endlessly searching. You'll find me pretty quickly if this interests you. Recently had a personality test that shows that I have sky-high openness to experience. So if the presentation seemed unusual to you, there's a specific reason for that. I can tell you more about that also. And the students working with me are fantastic.
Thank you, Kim, for sparking our imaginations. I think there's more questions in the chat, so I'll invite you to answer those in the chat as well. The healthcare session is unfortunately ended now, so I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Stephen, to start the medical session.
Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate it. And great opportunity here. We're going to hear from 4 companies. They're all short presentations, so 5 minutes each, and then 5 minutes of questions. And I'll follow the format of 2 minutes to go, then 1 minute to go. So I thank you very much, and we'll get started right away. I won't waste any more time with Critcare. Amir?
Thank you, Mike and Stephen, for having me here. So I'm going to share slides. Do you see my slides?
Yes. Okay. But they're not in presentation mode.
Yeah, I'm going to just make it presentation mode.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. So Critcare, my name is Amir Sanati Nezhad, founder and CTO of the Critcare DX. Critcare DX is developing the next generation of digital health monitoring systems or platform for in vitro diagnostic, basically for detection of many different molecules and different biofluidics, and for remote health monitoring. So over the last year, we had focus on COVID-19. So I was thinking maybe we can now just kind of focus on what we are doing on COVID itself. Despite a lot of advances on detection of the COVID-19 using different diagnostic kit, we are still lacking a true point-of-care device that people can use reliably at home and non-invasively measure COVID-19. And now these days, different variants of that. And then there are a lot of reasons there is no such a point-of-care device yet. Even they are called point-of-care, but they are not still as we are defining as point-of-care. The challenge is going to be more and more when we get more of this variant coming through, and a lot of this variant has caused a lot of problems. And if we're going to really deal with this variant over the course of time, even after vaccination, we need to really find a way of how using new technologies to keep the business open, even after a bunch of different vaccination coming through. So the problem has not really ended up. We still going to face a lot of challenge in this area. So COVID itself has impacted the COVID infection area has already impacted many other diseases, particularly the one that we need to now find a way of remotely monitoring the patient and not really asking them to come to hospital to be able to monitor. So we do need really the technology to be able to really have digital health monitoring of the healthy subject, and at the same time for a lot of different patients as well. So there's a need for rapid on-the-spot testing for the next couple of years, and then we definitely need more ways of monitoring the immunity level, whether vaccination has been effective, and customizing that for every specific populations, which is not done yet. And then we definitely need to find new ways of monitoring patients more quantitatively by using technology that they can use at home. That is what Critcare DX come to play. We developed a device that is a combination of electrochemical sensor and microfluidic, combine it with digital recording. So it's a really digital health system, and then combined with the cloud system and the machine learning side, we would be able to really get access to those diagnostic and monitoring purpose, and eventually can be used at home. So these are the devices that we have developed, and we have been successful to detecting RNAs and also a different cytokine protein of the COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2. And successfully, clinically, we have done a lot of work now in nucleic acid protein as an antigen test, but really superior to all our existing point-of-care, nominally point-of-care devices. So technology, as I mentioned, is a combination of microfluidic and electrochemical. So all the steps of assay is really automated. So it's a sample to result type of assay, from extraction of the molecule, from detection, purification, detection, and eventually recording of a signal, which is a digital signal. They would be all automatically done within a chip, and there's no manual step. That's really one of the reasons that many of this technology has not been ended up with a point of care, because there has been some manual step involved. So that's a kit we developed for saliva and for nasal sample, and this is a result we had so far working with the Calgary Provisional Lab, quite successfully, about 95% sensitivity and 100% selectivity, and with AUC of 97%. We're expanding this testing now to really test more kind of negative tests and more kind of different selectivity and specificity evaluation, but it seems technology is very reliable. It's working much better than the PanBio Abbott company that they ended up with 80–85% with the point-of-care device they have, but we have not really missed any of the patient. Now we are moving in the direction of basically validating this one and moving toward Health Canada and FDA approval. Before COVID-19, we used this technology actually for brain injuries. So these are the market associated with that. So detection of concussion, brain injuries, and monitoring the patient quantitatively using a simple finger prick test. We have done it a lot of clinical validation using that. So there are certain molecules we detected reliably, as you see some of these proteins, and we got very nice sensitive selectivity. And we, based on the type of spinal cord injury or stroke or a traumatic brain injury, we got really validated against the CMO technology, which is the most sensitive ELISA. And then we ended up with a really highly sensitive assay. And now we are expanding this for more clinical evaluation and testing with different kind of a stratified population test. So I think this technology is going to be game changer because it's really sample to result test. There is no manual step. And electrochemical of our company has demonstrated to be highly sensitive and comparable and much better than ELISA techniques. But it can be definitely expanded to other chronic disease and infection disease and brain injuries and other neurodegenerative disease. Our company mainly focus on cancer, brain injury, and COVID-19 for now. But it would be very nice technology eventually to be used at home for supporting pharma company to miniaturize clinical trial and in order to really get much more data out of those, and then eventually shorten the time of drug approval in that sense. At this stage, we are basically asking for advice mainly on quality control, because we really need to move toward the regulatory side now. We just need to have more experience and advice in that sense. And then regulatory approval, we need more advice on technology adoption, where this kind of technology can be applied on the clinical workflow, particularly on the infection side. And then we are seeking partnership because we have seen technology is very unique for detection of the COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 in wastewater, which we can definitely monitor the level of infection in different cities, and management of the LTC facility, long-term care facilities in that sense, because that's really non-invasive saliva test. And then eventually using and expanding utility of this technology platform for different microbe and toxin and environmental sample. That partnership is really appreciated.
Thank you so much, Amir. I appreciate
I'm done with my slide. Yeah, happy to answer the question.
Thank you. Well, we have only a minute left, so I'll just ask, encourage everyone to put questions in the chat. Quick question for myself. How's it with the variants of COVID that are coming out? Is this the same specificity and selection?
Yes, it is actually started last week. So we have a plan of 45 days to test 50 variants. We already collected sample from Proof Lab. We have not got a result out of it yet. But every day we are testing the variant now, UK variant.
Excellent.
So I can update you next time that I'm presenting.
Great, and it's just, again, it's a couple seconds here, but it's a great question from Michael. In terms of leveraging with a lot of competition in this area, and how you're feeling about that.
So as far as I know, because we are really monitoring all the companies coming through, and most of them are, or almost all of them, they are still as a kind of lab device, and none of them has been moving toward point of care. And the point of care that Abbott company has, a PanBio, is it ended up not really being diagnostic tool and ended up just a screening. And whoever is positive on PanBio, they have to still do the PCR test. And we have demonstrated, I didn't show a lot of those clinical data yet here, but we have shown that we are really equivalent to PCR. We have detected very low CT value of 36, 37, which is the minimum that PCR has been detected. We have been successful detecting those. And none of those Abbott and those other companies that they are claiming that they have point of care have been successful. So they have been very good on detecting more symptomatic or a little bit asymptomatic, but really high viral load, but not really early detection concept.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And again, encourage everyone to leave more questions.
Appreciate that.
Great presentation. Our next presentation is from IMBiotechnologies. And Michael, again, 5 minutes and 5 minutes for question.
That's great. Thanks very much. I'm just going to share my screen.
So I've just put up the poll for the last speaker, Amir. So thank you for giving us your feedback. I really appreciate that. It'll be shared with the teams after they present today, and also the advisors.
Sorry, this is not displaying. Do you have the presentation in front of you that you can bring up?
Yeah, I'll see what I can do here.
Thanks, Michael.
Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen, Michael.
Okay. If you just walk through it, I'll advance. Just say next.
Okay. Yeah, if you can start off, please. I can see your the presentation's not there, though.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, it's not there?
No.
No. It's a gorgeous picture, though.
How does that look?
Still not getting it.
Sorry, I've got to just figure out my situation here. I should know this better.
Do you want to move ahead?
Yeah, maybe is the next speaker ready? And Mike, we'll get back to you in 10 minutes.
That would be fine.
Great. Thanks, Michael. So our next presentation will be Rineke Steenbergen. Apologize for the pronunciation. but I hope you're ready to go.
Looks like she might not be in the room.
Is Mike Kolber in the room?
Yeah, sure am. You bet.
Excellent. Well, guess what? You're up.
I was putting a comment to the last speaker, so I'm halfway through. So you bet.
Okay, great.
If you're willing to, that would be great, because I just haven't been able
You're
to.
very patient. Thanks so much.
Going from last to not last is, I'll take it.
Exactly. Big upgrade.
You bet. I was just showing.
Great. And this is a longer presentation, so 10 minutes and then 10 minutes of questions. And I'll
perfect.
do the 1 and 2 minutes at the end.
Okay, great. Can you guys see my screens?
Perfectly, yes.
Perfect. No, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Mike Kolber. I'm a family physician, previous master's student, and co-founder of EMPRSS, which is the electronic medical procedure reporting systems. And similar to Vaultt, I think we found some niches or some areas where we think we can improve health, despite spending current system spending millions and billions on this kind of stuff. So we are a Tech Edmonton U of A spinoff company for the last 3+ years. We're an electronic data collection system, and more importantly, a service team, which enables clinicians to capture, synthesize, and receive reports pertaining to performance indicators for medical procedures. And our landmark product is EMPRSS Endo. And so I'll focus today on endoscopy. And our goal is to improve patient outcomes and general health systems by providing real-time relevant quality metrics to clinicians. And you would all think that those that are not in clinical medicine, you'd think that this would be happening on a day-to-day fashion in healthcare, but it's not. And this is how we've kind of figured out a way forward. So for EMPRSS Endo, we have a problem. We have a lot of procedures being performed. We have significant variability between endoscopists, most of them who don't know how they perform. Every physician thinks they're better than average, and God forbid any of us would be lower than average. So in Alberta and in Canada and in the world, GI problems are common. Colorectal cancer is number 2 for incidence mortality. Alberta has one of the highest IBD rates in the world, and there's a bazillion colonoscopies being performed. And I'll specifically talk about colonoscopies. Colonoscopies being performed for a multitude of reasons. In Alberta, there's over 100,000 performed annually in 50 different endoscopy units. I suspect most of us didn't know that there was over 50 endoscopy units in Alberta, and I am an endoscopist in Peace River, rural based. In Canada, there's over 1 million colonoscopies performed, and just think of the US, 10 million, obviously 10 times. There's variability. I always say it's like the Edmonton Oilers. We all play on the NHL hockey team, but some of us are first line wingers and other us like Connor McDavid, and some of us are fourth liners. In Alberta, unfortunately, we have a higher interval colorectal cancer rate, higher than the world population. And I'll give you some Alberta specific data because that's where I'm from. 12% of all colorectal cancers are actually diagnosed 6 months to 5 years after an index colonoscopy. And that seems to be higher than our worldwide numbers. We're not sure if Albertans are different or the endoscopists are missing lesions at that index of colonoscopy. And unfortunately, most endoscopists are really, like I said, unaware of key performance indicators. Current systems, unfortunately, like Critcare, do not provide and will not provide key performance indicators for many years to come. So the purpose, why collect quality metrics in endoscopy? Every study shows that the Hawthorne effect is very pervasive in endoscopy. If somebody's watching, you're putting metrics in, variables in, your performance gets better. The performance, I won't bore you with the details how much it improves. For every 1% improvement in adenoma detection or a precursor of colorectal cancer, we decrease future colon cancers by 3%. We've worked with the IHE, and they've actually modeled that actually if we had all Albertan endoscopists participate in an endo quality study and improve their metrics, we would have 55 fewer interval colon cancers annually, and we'd save $13 million over 5 years. All endoscopy units, all 50 endoscopy units are required to participate in a program called the GRS or Global Rating Scale. Unfortunately, they don't have the wherewithal, the systems, or the ability to collect the quality metrics, which is part of the GRS. So we divided a program. This came from my master's project 10 years ago, kind of in a number of editions. My master's project was paper-based and short, and one of the participants said, geez, Mike, why don't you do it electronically and why don't we do it longer? And hence, EMPRSS grew out of that. We've studied this in numerous avenues, both with family physicians and most recently with a bunch of clinicians in the north that I'll tell you about in just a second. So the process to date, we followed a research timeline. We determine readiness to participate. We educate the users, and then we help them through and hold their hands as they put their data in, and then we report back with their real-time quality metrics. We are open to looking at alternatives like a subscription-based and less service-rated model, but we're here really for advice, and I have a few key clinical questions for the advisors at the end. We provide data for the endoscopists, both personal, community-based, and overall. And as you know, clinicians, physicians are competitive, and we always want to be first. We've had, some proof of concept and pilot studies. We recently concluded a 2-year study with 6,000 colonoscopies in 16 endoscopists and 6 hospitals in the North Zone, spanning surgeons, internists, and family physicians. And we were able to show that they were able to implement this, use it without negatively impacting patient care, flow, and all of them felt that they actually improved their performance with doing this type of program. Here's the data this is the type of data that we provide back for endoscopists for self-reflection. They own the data. The data is inputted into REDCap in real time. And then we've developed some tools to reformat it and send it back to them, whether it again be live, quarterly, or annually in those different permutations as shown before. Easy to read, understandable, and implement and actionable. We ask them to action if there's things for them to look at. We ask that they self-reflect for CE credits, for hospital accreditation, for improving their performance going forward. So it's been used in 15 hospitals, over 8,000 medical procedures in Alberta thus far. We have a great small team. Myself and Nicole Olivier are kind of the co-founders. We have a computing science programmer intern that we've hired with Wickery for the last couple of years to help improve the visual displays. And we have the rest of our team. We've published the data with this tool through the Alberta Family Physician and Electronic Endoscopy Study and our North Zone study with, again, the largest prospective real-time quality metric study across very different clinicians. The manuscript actually is going to be submitted for publication later this week, early next week. We've been partnering with a lot of people over the last couple of years. You can see, I won't go through them all. We've had a lot of support for funding or in-kind support or expertise. And we have some other key partners that love the product, but aren't currently helping support us, such as the College of Physicians and Surgeons of Alberta, which might be reasonable. Again, the benefits of participating in a project like EMPRSS, the endoscopists, they benefit by improving their outcomes. The patients improve by having a higher quality colonoscopy and decrease future colorectal cancers. The unit in the hospital, actually, this is great for accreditation and health systems, saving money, fewer colorectal cancers, and just improve the quality of the procedure. So we have 2 goals, and I'll use the hockey analogy. Love hockey, love the Habs. Hat trick. We're looking for 3 perpetually funded projects and studies to continually to support our team and allow our team to grow. And we'd love to see everybody playing, meaning to offer to all endoscopists across Canada the ability to participate in a grassroots-like project just going forward. I think I'll leave it at that. We've identified potential clients, and these are the people we've had conversations for in the last 4 years. The highlighted ones are the groups. We are partnering right now with IHE again for part 2 to look at the clinical and economic benefit of participating in a program like EMPRSS. And the highlighted ones are the ones that we're actually going to specifically model the clinical and economic benefits of these 3 groups of people if they were to participate with EMPRSS going forward. Our challenges are the following. Love the product, but can you find somebody to pay for it? Physicians are cheap. They do not wish to pay for anything else. Our platform is currently REDCap. We love REDCap. REDCap has all of the, obviously, PIA requirements. We're currently under the research arm. We'll likely have to switch to commercial in the future and the financial costs of that going forward. We are very cognizant of the Critcare distraction in Alberta, where it's taking time and resources from any other opportunities to grow a organic or grassroots project. I feel actually this is obviously as a spinoff of for-profit. I think that for-profits are viewed differently by healthcare workers than not-for-profits, but that's just my feeling. And I need to build my team, including business development and advisory board. I've spoken to the head of the GRS for Canada, who's willing to be on my advisory board thus far. And I've got some ideas for business development. I've articulated some solutions. I think there's some opportunities within the healthcare system, but I'm looking for doors to open and or further support to have this implemented as a larger scale project, not a one-off here, one-off there, and continuing pilot projects. We have no real competition. I really don't think so. Even those within Critcare think they're at least 5 years out before getting any real decent quality metrics where endoscopists are interested. And GIQIC in the US, we could actually write the same vision and goals, very similar to what we have. You may say that you should be heading to the US, kind of like some of the other speakers today. But I'm looking for the panel to give me advice on how better to gain entry into the healthcare system and get a line item on operating budgets where it just goes forward, and how to support widespread use and scalability of this project. Everybody that uses it thinks it's great, but how do we get it into continual and perpetuity to continue to change culture and outcomes for future Canadians and Albertans? And I would love to have everybody playing, all endoscopists, not just picking and choosing those that are able to get supported. So at the end of my career, I'd love to see two plaques on the wall. Every hospital program that's doing endoscopy has met or exceeded quality metrics, and every endoscopist within the program also is meeting or exceeding quality benchmarks in endoscopy. So that's me, and I'm really looking forward to advice of the advisors and any comments and questions. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. That was excellent and greatly needed. We have 5 minutes left for questions. One quick one for me. Have you approached the manufacturers of the equipment to see if they're interested?
So the manufacturers say that they have products. The products are super expensive and they don't work. Yeah. So no, I have not. That's an interesting, I hadn't thought that way. You know how you kind of open the book and you close the book and move on to something else. That's a great thought. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And just the second one too, I think it's great if we could show, steal some words out of Patty, but the value of this and sort of down the line, what it sort of means. And the process, I especially know very limited knowledge, but there's a slow uptake with colorectal cancer, and we're not getting enough. Perhaps if people knew these advances were out there, they'd be more willing to do the test.
Yes, great. Yeah, excellent point. Many reasons to do a colonoscopy. Variability exists whether you're screening or symptom investigation. Absolutely. Great comment.
Good. And there was a question from John Porter.
Yeah, I was just curious when you looked at, who you'd talk to and bounce the idea off. So what was the response from the CAG rep, and what's their reluctance to support this endeavor?
So the CAG rep, Canadian Association of Gastroenterology. So I did have conversations with previous president, and he articulated that a province in the Eastern Canada was interested, but after that, it kind of died. CAG may have a hard time supporting a family physician-based grown product. Unfortunately, as I'm not a full-fledged gastroenterologist, they have had previous products in the past, a page project, stuff like that, which really doesn't come anywhere close to our product. It's probably a good idea to revisit CAG again. It's been a while, and not a bad idea to actually say, hey, we have this for your people. Some family physicians are CAG. CAG is catering mainly to the gastroenterologists. Across Canada, actually, surgeons perform as many or more endoscopies in gastroenterologists because of the subspecialty format of our healthcare system. So great point to revisit with CAG. You're right. See, this is why you guys are here. I've been doing this so long. We keep doing the same thing.
Exactly. And I know there's a big game for you tonight, so I'll make these questions go. But there's one more question. I'm just curious, have you taken a step back and approached the medical schools about getting this part of the curriculum?
Yeah, so we did. So we were working initially closely with the University of Saskatchewan, which has extra skills in surgery proponents. It's almost like choosing wisely and bugs for drugs. If you actually train them early, they're going to continue to go in the future. Unfortunately, University of Saskatchewan had no money, and we often get, and so the University of Alberta GI program, which I've also spoken with and didn't put on the clients, said, no, trust me, I got this, but then they don't have it, right? So you know what, a good time to revisit those guys again. You bet. I do know the spaces and I know all the people in these spheres. You bet. Great comment.
Excellent. And one last question from Carla.
Sure.
Yeah, for companies with tech at this stage, there's often a disconnect between the demonstrated value to the users of the tech and the demonstrated value you can extract from the people paying for it. So you gave, a nice summary of the data and the impact, and you gave economic data of 13 million in savings over 5 years at the start. But it would be helpful to see a connection as to how the data you're gathering right now supports and directly connects to the economic argument, because that becomes a more compelling argument to take in to those discussions.
So that's a great comment. So we are working with IHE, and again, they are performing the modeling based on participating in these types of projects, improving polyp detection, changing future colorectal cancer, and then obviously articulating the costs of colorectal cancers down the road. And that's how we came up with how they came up with the 13 million over 5 years. So I'm super happy to share. It's just actually, it just came across our desk last week as far as the formal $13 million. But I'm super happy to share with anybody that wishes to see that report going forward, because I do think it's fairly compelling that both we improve patient outcomes and improve healthcare spending, which is often not in the case in healthcare spending. So great comment.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody. There'll be a poll that will come up. Thank you so much for putting in your thoughts. Again, very inspiring to see all these great ideas. Next, Michael will get you to share your screen.
Okay, so Michael, do you want to try and share your screen, Michael Stewart, or shall I try for you?
I think it'll work this time.
Excellent. It's meant to be.
And for the other presenters, we're running about 20 minutes behind, so I just bear with us if you could.
It's the chair's fault.
Yeah, I messed up. But we'll have a last speaker, Rineke Steenbergen. Will speak after this next talk. So we can see your slide. That's great.
Okay, I'll go to full presentation.
Great.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much. Sorry about the equipment glitch earlier. I'm Mike Stewart. I'm the president and CEO of IMBiotechnologies Limited. We are a medical device company located in Edmonton, Alberta, and we have a medical device that's quite unique. It's been approved by the US FDA. It's been approved by Health Canada. And we started marketing the product late 2019 before we were crushed by COVID-19. Moving right along, the product treats a number of maladies, all of which are very large markets. For example, men with enlarged prostates, women with uterine fibroids, liver cancer, primary and secondary, morbid obesity, and most recently osteoarthritis, knee pain or hip pain or shoulder pain, basically joint pain due to osteoarthritis. So the product acts as an alternative to surgery. It improves surgical outcomes. It can be used with other treatments. And as I said before, it works well in pain management. The bottom right-hand corner shows a picture of the vial. It looks like a drug, but it is actually a medical device. The big opportunity for us is actually dealing with private clinics in the US. That's because the private clinics, we can negotiate directly with the end user and the payer. In which case the physician can treat a patient with fibroids or enlarged prostates or liver tumors, and most recently pain due to osteoarthritis. And even now, plantar fasciitis is coming into the market. So this is how the product works. It's delivered by catheter into the blood vessels that feed a target tissue. The catheter is directed by a physician, an interventional radiologist, into the blood vessels that feed the tissue. In this case, it's an enlarged prostate. And our product, which is tiny, tiny beads, flows down the blood vessel and stops due to size constraints and blocks the blood flow within that blood vessel, basically choking off oxygen and nutrients to the tissue, causing it to shrink. So as I said before, the product is approved both in the US and in Canada. Our marketing hook is that it's biodegradable. Unlike other products that are on the market, our product actually does the job and then disappears. And it is also detectable by ultrasound, which allows the physician to use less radiation when treating the patient. It's a relatively large market size, but to be realistic, the obtainable market is about $255 million US. If you read the reports, it says the potential market is over $2 billion, but actually what you can actually get a hold of is about 255 US. But it does not include bringing in osteoarthritis, obesity, or plantar fasciitis. So who knows how big the market can grow. Our marketing strategy has been to contact hospitals, private clinics, et cetera, and market directly to the end user, interventional radiologists, through meetings. But we have an educated patient population which is seeking these treatments out. And so as an example, the educated patient population is actually driving the new market in the US for treating knee pain. This is what our supply chain looks like. Our product is manufactured in the US and it's warehoused in the Chicago area, where it's shipped to either directly to hospitals or private clinics or through a distributor to the hospitals and private clinics. Regarding marketing and distribution, we've recently cut a deal with Canadian Hospital Specialties here in Canada. They are our exclusive distributor for our product in Canada. And that was triggered by the Health Canada approval. We also have a distributor in the US and most recently in Israel and one pending in Iran. Transactions that have occurred since soft launch, there are a number of fairly large entities that we're speaking with and have our product. And this is what our forecast looks like. We've achieved about half of it for this year. And so we're on our way to actually achieving what our target is this year. Good patent portfolio, and our exit strategy is sale of technology in 3 to 5 years. These are our potential acquirers. And what we're looking to do is raise $500,000 based on a convertible note. There are the details of the convertible note: 12% interest over an 18-month term and 20% discount on conversion. The use of proceeds would be for marketing and commercial sale in US, Canada, Israel, and potentially Iran, and also to manufacture product. So thank you for your attention, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Derry had a question actually similar to mine, so I'll let you go ahead.
All right, this looks like a really interesting product. I'm curious, what indications was it approved for by the FDA in Health Canada? And then what would be the implications of off-label use? Because it seems like there's quite a bit of things it can be used for.
Okay, for the US, it's approved for unresectable, inoperable hypervascularized tumors, which is basically liver cancer, liver tumors. However, as you said, the physicians are using it for other indications already. So they're using it for fibroids, for prostates, for genicular artery embolization to treat knee pain. And most recently, a physician contacted us to see if it would be possible to use the product to treat plantar fasciitis. In Canada, we are approved to treat fibroids, prostates, and hypervascularized tumors, which covers a very broad range of things. Again, physicians using it for various things.
Thank you.
Okay.
This is very impressive. I'm curious, has there been any health economic studies as well, comparing surgeries or other areas?
Yeah, CADITH did some health economic studies in comparing embolization therapy, which is what this is, with typical surgeries. And it depends on how you look at it, but the embolization therapies come out really, really well as far as patient comfort is concerned. The recovery is quicker. There's less impact on the patient. So it's because it's minimally invasive. And the efficacy is as good, unless you're looking at something like doing a hysterectomy to cure fibroid problems. basically no uterus, no fibroids. But then you have no uterus. So that's the issue with that. So yeah, it comes out well.
Just, and also follow up to that. So the procedure, is that a unique procedure then can be reimbursed, or is the coding for that, is it part of just regular?
Yeah, the coding is already there. So embolization therapy has its own coding, and that's why we're easily able to sell into the US and Canada.
Excellent. Great. There'll be obviously a poll that came up. Thank you very much again. It's so impressive to be part of this conversation. And for our last presentation, we'll move forward, and that will keep us on time. And Rineke, you're here?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And you get to close the presentation, so thank you so much. Perfect.
All right.
Looks good.
Can you all see it? Can I get started?
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
please.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Rineke Steenbergen. I am a research scientist at the Li Ka-shing Institute of Virology. And today I'd like to present the work we've done on hepatocyte-like cells that we have developed at our institute, and my co-inventors are Dr. Lauren Tyrrell and Dr. Michael Joyce. All right, so what are these cells and what do we think we can use them for? So we use liver tumor cells in tissue culture. Normally these cells are dividing very rapidly and they have very low functionality. When we expose these cells to a new culturing protocol, they stop growing and they get back all their liver functionality that was lost when they were growing. So what are some of those processes? So normally a liver highly depends on fat burning instead of the burning of glucose for its energy metabolism. It plays a key role in regulating blood glucose, and that is evident, for example, in the deposit of glycogen in these cells. And liver, of course, is best known for its role in detoxifying either waste products of the cell itself, or, for example, detoxifying drugs. So these functions are absent under normal tissue culture conditions. And when we change our tissue culture conditions to what we have patented, all these functions come back to levels that are comparable to the levels in primary hepatocytes. What also comes back is bile secretion by these cells, and what comes back is lipoprotein secretion. So all the liver functions we have looked at, they are restored when we change our tissue culture conditions. So we hope to market these cells as a replacement for primary hepatocytes. They are not primary hepatocytes, but they are a functional equivalent of primary hepatocytes. So we envision we can sell them to cell suppliers that currently sell primary hepatocytes. Some of these cell suppliers already sell other tumor cell lines that have been exposed to a different protocol to make them more functional. And I will talk about that in a little bit. So there has been some interest from the pharmaceutical industry. We have so far focused on testing of toxicity of drugs, but there's also potential as a metabolic model. There is a huge shortage of metabolic models in the field because most cell cultures, and that is true for any cell, also primary hepatocytes, they do not have a proper metabolic profile when they are in culture. So we also think we may be able to sell them to research lab as an alternative to primary hepatocytes. So there are plenty of existing alternatives, and I know it may be quite hard to break into that market. So the gold standard is and will always be primary hepatocytes isolated from patients. Those cells are hard to get by, they are very expensive, and obviously they are very limited in batches. Primary hepatocytes are also produced by KMT Hepatech, and they're called PXB cells. Those cells are unique is that they're propagated in a mouse and then isolated. As I already mentioned, there are some other tumor cells on the market. So HepaRG is one of those cells, and that is currently marketed and sold to the pharmaceutical industry, for example. I believe our biggest competition is the upcoming market of stem cells and 3D cell cultures. So the stem cell field is very rapidly improving and is going to be a very big competitor. What our advantage is over competitors is that our production is relatively simple and therefore low cost. We do not need a lot of specialty chemicals to induce these cells to differentiate. Our cells are also fully scalable. That is because our cells can both grow under the one type of tissue culture conditions. So you can multiply your cells to whatever level you need. You can have small cultures or big cultures, and then you can differentiate these cells after that. We have already worked with enormous batches, so we know that we can do that, and that is feasible. What is also unique about these cells, and we have measured this, is that they are more stable and are more suitable for long-term cultures than many other cell cultures are. So they retain their functionality for a very long time. We have tested for up to 100 days, and in those 100 days, they do not lose this functionality, whereas primary hepatocytes, for example, they typically have to be used within 3 days to 3 weeks. So what we hope to do with these cells is license them to companies. A step further would be to have our own cell production and sales facility, or we could offer in-house testing of any of the applications that I've talked about. I personally think that selling these cells is just a first step because these cells are metabolically very similar to primary hepatocytes. I think where the future would be in is diagnostics. So for example, we are currently working on precision diagnostics for fatty liver disease or other metabolic diseases using our cell culture models. And I can talk about that in more detail in another meeting if there is interest in that. Another field that is up and coming is liver organoid production. So either for research or if you use primary hepatocytes as a mini organ that maybe in the future may facilitate organ transplants. Our cells would not be suitable for that, but that is where the field is going. And we have also been working on optimizing cell conditions for their functionality compared to in vivo applications using other cell types. So where we are at currently is that we are planning to do a more detailed market research to see where the interest is and what our best option may be to proceed. And after the market research, we will continue fundraising to enable marketing and growth and potentially look for a partner to get our product on the market. I thank you, and I'm looking forward to your questions and feedback.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. Great way to round out the presentations. There'll obviously be a poll coming up. Thank you for all participating in that, getting back the information. For myself, just a quick questions. I know, Michael, I want just for myself, is there a regulatory hurdle that you have to deal with at all?
Regulatory hurdle with respect to what?
To selling these or commercializing these, do you have to go through various stages, or you can just go direct to market?
We should be able to go direct to market. We have to do some sub-licensing of the cells that we are using, but that is not really regulatory. There are some limitations on, for example, for testing of toxicity. Pharmaceutical companies cannot exclusively use cultured cells, but they can use at least one cell line as a validation for their product, but they would still have to do primary hepatocytes besides that. But they are allowed to use one cultured cell line, and HepaRG, for example, is used as one of those cell lines.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Michael, I know you had a question.
Sure, great talk. And I just wondered how adaptable your system is to other cell types or subtypes. Is it fairly limited to these hepatocytes or cell lines, or can you, is there an underlying technology that you've been able to protect?
We have tested it on several cell lines. Some cell lines work great, other cell lines do not. So we have tested it on a lung cell line, and that one differentiated really well too. We have also tested it on HeLa cells, for example, and they do not appreciate this new culturing protocol at all. So it is not universal, but it is also not unique to these cells only. As for other liver tumor cells, we have tested a few. Some are okay with this protocol, other ones are really not responding well to it.
Sure. And one more question, if I could. Just wondering, competing on cost alone might be difficult, but you might be able to engineer in some novel function, let's say a mutant or a complex you can't easily find in a primary cell line, in a primary tissue. Is there some unique value that would allow your product to be more expensive yet much more valuable to the end user, let's say the pharma that's trying to develop a therapeutic?
To my best knowledge, our cell line is the only cell line that secretes lipoproteins of the proper size. We have inquired about that with producers of hepatocytes, and they said there currently is no market because there are no cells that can do that. So even comparison to, for example, primary hepatocytes, our cells outperform them, and that is because primary hepatocytes lose their functionality within a few days. Compared to stem cells, the ones that we have been able to look at, our cells are doing better than other cell lines. As there currently are no cell lines that produce lipoproteins that are properly sized, it's hard to say if there is a market for it because there is no market for it.
And well, I know we're just short of time, but one quick question. Is there a scope for using the core technology to improve organ functionality prior to translation? And that question comes from Jeffrey.
Sorry. Could you repeat that?
Sure. Is there any scope for using the core technology to improve organ functionality prior to transplantation?
In my opinion, that would very well be possible. We have tried this technology on primary hepatocytes, so they are also isolated cells, and we do see an improvement there. I do think it might be useful for organ transplant, but it's also my understanding that organs are basically just kept in a certain solutions and not really cultured. I mean, I'm not an expert on organ transplant, so that's.
Thank you again.
But there are definitely improvements in primary cells when we use this protocol.
Excellent. Thank you. Sorry to cut you off there. And again, Michael, I'll pass it off to you, and I appreciate the opportunity to chair this session.
Okay, I'd like to thank you, Stephen, and all the chairs today for your tremendous help, all the advisors who came on board to help, the speakers who shared their stories. They've been working hard on these technologies, and it's great that you're willing to share them here on this open stage. I wanted to also thank everybody who's sharing their time and expertise here in any way. If you could reach out to one person after this meeting and just offer a contact, a bit of advice, that would make a big difference to some of these teams. They're not all looking just for money, they're looking really for advice, I think primarily. But there are teams that are also raising significant money. So if you know of an investor that might be interested, feel free to link them up. We really appreciate your help. Our next meeting is going to be on September the 21st. You're all invited to come to that meeting. We're an open stage. We're looking for ways to grow. If you're interested in partnering